You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't to deceive me. Muddy ends break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less. You check as I'm chess, what's happening next? Yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson. He got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession. All in his possession, you got their attention. I leave an impression and take your redemption. Just kill, no discretion. Your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they're scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try to change, you can say no, free me. So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions and the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds. They can stay soft. You can change lives. You create thoughts. Never waste time. You got one shot. You got one life. Better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5. No mean boss. Just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way. What I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they're scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try to change, you can say no, free me. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less. You check as I'm chess, what's happening next? Yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson. He got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession. All in his possession, you got their attention. I leave an impression and take your redemption. Just kill, no discretion. Your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they're scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try to change, you can say no, free me. So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions and the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds. They can stay soft. You can change lives. You create thoughts. Never waste time. You got one shot. You got one life. Better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5. No mean boss. Just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way. What I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they're scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try to change, you can say no, free me.
Welcome to Case by Case, and welcome to the Delphi Marathon. For the next 4 days, we're going back to the beginning, back to a small Indiana town, back to February of 2017, back to two young girls named Abigail Williams and Liberty German. On February 13th, 2017, Abby and Libby went out for what should have been an ordinary afternoon at the trails near the Monon High Bridge in Delphi, Indiana. They never came home. The following day, their bodies were found, and from that moment forward, Delphi would never be the same. What began as the investigation into the murders of two children became one of the most debated, complicated, and polarizing criminal cases in America. Because beneath the headlines, beneath the press conferences, beneath the sketches, photographs, search warrants, and courtroom arguments, there are questions that have never completely gone away. Who was really on those trails that afternoon? When did they arrive? When did they leave? Which witness was where and at what time? What does the digital evidence actually tell us? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what happened after 2:13 p.m.? We have a video, we have audio, we have phone records, we have Apple Health data, we have photographs, witness statements, surveillance cameras, cell phone evidence, and years of investigative records. Yet there remains a period of time after that final known activity where the complete sequence of events has never been satisfactorily reconstructed for the public. And the contradictions did not end on February 13th. They multiplied. Witness timelines changed. Descriptions changed. Memories changed. Accounts from investigators, witnesses, and members of the family have not always fit neatly together. Evidence that should have answered questions sometimes created entirely new ones. Approximately the first 70 days of recorded investigative interviews were later reported missing or unavailable. The case passed through two elected prosecutors. Years went by. One anniversary became two became three became five. From February 13th, 2017 until Richard Allen's arrest on October 26, 2022, 5 years, 8 months, and 13 days had passed. 2,081 days. For more than 2,000 days, the public was asked to wait. Wait for an arrest, wait for answers, wait for investigators to explain how all of the pieces fit together. Then came Richard Allen, a Delphi resident who had spoken with investigators in 2017, a man whose name had not been publicly associated with the investigation for more than 5 years. Suddenly, he was accused of murdering Abby and Libby, and almost overnight, one mystery appeared to have an answer. But an arrest does not erase unanswered questions. A prosecution does not eliminate contradictions, and a conviction does not mean that the public should stop examining the evidence. In America, justice is supposed to demand something more than certainty based on repetition. It demands evidence, it demands transparency, it demands that investigators, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and courts be held to the same standard we expect when someone's freedom and the truth about the deaths of two children are at stake. This marathon is not about forgetting Abby and Libby while arguing about Richard Allen. It is precisely the opposite. Abby and Libby deserve the correct story of what happened to them. Their families deserve the correct story. And the community of Delphi deserves the correct story. And if Richard Allen is responsible, the evidence should be able to withstand the closest examination imaginable. But if the investigation was flawed, if important evidence was lost, if witnesses contradicted one another, if timelines do not reconcile, if potentially significant suspects or evidence were discounted, or if the wrong conclusions were drawn, then those questions cannot simply be buried because a verdict has been returned. Real justice does not fear scrutiny. Real justice survives it.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Case by Case. Welcome to the Delphi Marathon. Let me bring on my handsome bloke, Mr. Quester. Good morning, Quester.
Morning, Amy. How are you now?
I'm good. How are you? Are you ready to start this week?
I am. I'm ready.
Me too. Good morning, everybody in the chat. Lots of locations you guys are posting. First order of business is to like the stream, please, and share it. Let's get this case in the spotlight. We have less than a month before oral arguments, and it is time that we push for a movement and get this out there in the airwaves. So you're not sharing it for me, you're sharing it for Rick, you're sharing it for Abby and Libby, and for all of the injustice that was committed in this case. This marathon, I'm doing this obviously because oral arguments are coming up. It's going to be different than a vault series. And if you're new here, we have been for over a year now investigating this case, and we have over 50 episodes of the Delphi Vault, starting from the very beginning when the investigation started. There's a playlist, and we go through the entire case, deep dives, rabbit holes, phone data, Apple Health data, timelines. We go through it all. So in the interim, when you're done listening to the marathon and you want to start fresh with the case because we've captured your attention, there's plenty for you to dig into. So this is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a broad overview of the case. In this marathon, I will not be getting into the trial. That may come later, us dissecting the trial. I'm sure after oral arguments, we're going to have a lot to talk about. I will be attending oral arguments, seating availability permitting. So I will be there. And Quester doesn't know it yet, but Quester's going to stream the oral arguments live from the channel. I got to walk him through it. Isn't that right, Quester? You're going to do that, right? You're going to run the live?
Well, it appears so.
Yes.
It might be a mess if you don't run me through
it. Yeah, I will run you through it. So down at the bottom of the screen are some links. And if you want to support the trip, because everything that we do when we go to Delphi obviously comes back to you guys. This is my 4th or 5th year going, and we do a lot of on-site videoing. This year, I will have a videographer following the group, not just me, just to document getting a better view, because it's hard for me to do it with a camera by myself. So, and I will be hosting an Italian dinner with some very special people, and we will more than likely be streaming live on site while we're there, and kind of giving you guys a behind the scenes look at what we've been doing. We have been in communication with some locals in the area, getting permissions to do the things that we want to do while we're there. So with that being said, I am ready to get started. And each day going forward, I don't have an end time. I've got a lot of information to go over. So I will, once I get so far into it, I may, say, okay, we're done for the day, but we don't have an end time, but we have a start time of 11 a.m. every day. I do have a guest coming on at noon. And in the meantime, I just want to talk about the case as a whole and getting you guys acclimated with who's who. And obviously I'm speaking to the new people who will be watching this. In case you don't know the players in the case, we're going to start with obviously the victims. We're going to go through the family. We're going to go through Kelsey German, the spokesperson for the family, and the dynamics of, we're going to touch on the dynamics of law enforcement, the names that you'll be hearing a lot. So before we get started, Quester, do you have anything that you want to touch on, or any thoughts about the week, the information that we're trying to convey to the public. Do you have an opinion that you want to express?
No, I think I'll just follow you through it, and we'll see what we can cover.
Okay. So first things first, let me see here. Make sure I've got all my, remove this. Okay, well, let's start off with discussing oral arguments that are coming up Monday, September 21st. They will be in the morning. As we get closer to that date, I'll be sharing the link from the court website. If you would prefer to watch it from the court's website, I'll make that available, and I'm sure you're going to see it all over the place. I will be streaming it live here. The link is already up. Well, I won't be. Quester will be. Now, if for whatever reason we realize we're not going to get in, because I do know the seats are limited, and the news media is getting press passes and I think first access. And obviously, I believe that there are going to be certain people who get priority over the public. And I don't want to watch from a room that's standing room only. If I can't be in the courtroom, I will be somewhere where I can stream it live, so we can immediately discuss what we watched. But I do, if I'm able to get in there, if we feel like we have a fighting chance to get in, I'll be in there. So that oral arguments are Monday, September 21st. I believe they start at 10 or 10:30. So the oral arguments are going to be focused on the filings that you can find at mycase.indiana.gov. If you haven't read through those, the state filed, the defense, or not the defense, but the appellate team filed, outlining all of the issues, the legal issues in the way the case was handled. Judge Gall, the decisions she made throughout the course of pretrial hearings and the trial, not letting certain evidence in, the civil rights violations that were committed against Rick. An appeal is limited. You don't have, you can't turn over 500 pages of argument. It's limited. So you kind of have to, take your best shot with your strongest arguments. So that is what the oral arguments are going to be. It's not going to be about evidence. It's not, it may be about evidence or third-party suspects not being permitted to be discussed at trial, but it's not going to be about, the case itself as far as the things that we talk about. It's going to be about that. And basically, the judges are going to want to hear from each side their verbal arguments. And I don't anticipate a ruling coming out of the court in September. Unless there's something that they come across so egregious. The last time this went to the Supreme Court in Indiana, they gave a ruling the same day, and that was to reinstate Andrew Baldwin and Brad Rosie and Jennifer Auger back on. Well, I don't think Jennifer was on then. Back on as a defense team, because if you're not familiar with this case, Judge Gall kicked the defense team off. So they fought and they got back on. But that's not the circumstances right now. So I believe we're not going to get a ruling from the court probably for several weeks, if not a month or two. Could be wrong. The sooner the better. And if the court doesn't rule in Rick's favor, or give him any type of relief, whether that be vacating the sentence or sending it back, sending certain things back down to the state level. It's not a loss. It is a loss, but it's not a loss overall. Then Rick will go into post-conviction relief, which that will probably take a couple of years. The process will begin, but any movement in the court will be a couple of years. So make sure you set your calendars for September 21st, which is on a Monday. On February 13th, 2017, 2 young lives were stolen. One's man's freedom was taken. Nearly a decade later, the evidence still raises more questions than answers. And from February 13th, 2017, until Richard Allen's arrest, which was not until October 26th of 2022, the investigation lasted 5 years, 8 months, and 13 days. And I don't believe that we have any more answers after a trial and a conviction than we did before Rick Allen's arrest. We have more knowledge about the case, but in my personal opinion, we all sort of knew, the timeline and the dynamics. But as far as proving the case against Rick, my opinion is the state failed. And I can say that because I'm an outsider looking in, and I know more than what the jury did. Hopefully I know more than what the jury did when they took their oath to sit on that jury. They were denied a lot of information that I believe they should have been given the opportunity to hear and judge for themselves. What about you, Quester?
Yeah, I'm 100% on your side. Justice, rights all denied. It was a kangaroo court, really, to be honest. There was the state case, in my opinion, was so weak they shouldn't have even brought it. If they didn't have the judge on side, and from what I'm hearing, allegedly, certain juror on their side, I don't think they'd have got a conviction at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe if all of the evidence was allowed in, and I'm not saying not all. There obviously there are rules to the court, and certain things that would be allowed in, but I think I have spoken to Andy Baldwin, kind of extensively actually, and an adorable man. And I think that he will, he has admitted publicly that there was more that could have been done. And what I see, one of the biggest problems with the case was all of the chaos before trial, the kicking off of the defense team, the constant having to file motions to get discovery being hidden, waiting months to get what they've requested that should have just automatically been turned over. There was a lot of obstacles put in the defense's way that prevented them from actually working the case. Instead, they were having to fight just to be able to defend the case because they didn't have all the access to the information. And then you find out that the first 70 days of the investigation, very important interrogations of, from the very first week, Brad Holder was being, he was being sought after. He was being looked at. Ron Logan. And for all of that information, months down the road, after Andrew Baldwin and Rosie were put on the case, it took them a long time to be told, oh, oops, by the way, we've lost all this information. And they never attempted to go back and recreate those interviews. They never said, holy crap, we've lost this. We need to go back and re-interview these people. That's just unacceptable. And then the kicking off of the defense team, that was then another ordeal, another hurdle, another complete ball of chaos, because when they were removed from the case, when they had gotten the discovery that they had to that point, it was all disorganized. And that's why, knowing the length of this investigation, for a defense team to get discovery so disorganized, things being mislabeled, misfiled, to where, they're opening up a file and they're finding things that should have not been, saved there. It should have been where it belonged, filed under, another label. They're having to organize everything. Then when they're kicked off, they have to give all the discovery back. And Judge Gall immediately assigned two new public defenders to the case. I believe the discovery actually was transferred to them. And then when Andrew and them were reinstated as Rick's attorneys, the discovery had to be moved back over. And when they got it pretty much in the same state that they had gotten it originally. It was disheveled. That, in a case this large, in an investigation that went on this long, that alone would have taken a team of about 10 paralegals or investigators just to sit in a room every single day and go through with a fine-tooth comb and organize. Then you've got the court not paying the attorneys on time. And both of these attorneys are in private practice. These are not two attorneys that work for a public defender's office. They're on a list to make themselves available as public defenders, but that's not their primary role as attorneys in Indiana. So this case is taking away from their private practice income, and their partners are having to cover that individual partner's lack of contribution to the law firm. So, and everything that Judge Gall did in this case, to me, she got away with every single delay that she could, not answering motions that were filed. There was so much that she should have been able to rule on immediately, and she just drug her feet, dragging out time, kind of leaving the defense in limbo, so to speak, to where they really didn't know which way to move forward because they're waiting on an answer. That is not due process. When you have a man like Rick Allen, who was literally plucked off the street, and let's hypothetically for a minute pretend that Rick Allen is guilty. That doesn't change due process. That doesn't change how he's entitled to his rights. And what was done to Rick Allen is something that if this trial would have been televised, I think the United States of America would have been in a outrage. If you think Karen Reed was insane, and the support that you're now seeing for someone like Lindsay Clancy, if this trial would have been televised, I wouldn't be here right now trying to start a movement. And that needs to happen, because I think once the world starts to see what happened here, they are going to be in complete and utter shock. It's disgusting, and it is blatant. Take away a human being's rights, take away his ability to put on a defense, and take away his life and his sanity before he's ever convicted of a crime. That's what happened in this case. So let's meet the victims. Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Liberty was 14. Abby was 13. They were very good friends. Some describe them as best friends. They went to school together. They had sleepovers. They did a lot of things together. They played the saxophone together. On the eve of these murders, both girls were playing softball and looking forward to the school year ahead, with softball starting in the spring. And it's, I think the faces of these two little girls have kept this case for a lot of us who want the truth to come out. Their faces are the reason behind that. Their lives were the reason behind that. And this is just a tragedy overall. And it's not any more of a tragedy of any other child whose life has been taken. The bigger tragedy is what I would call the failure of law enforcement. And I will go so far as say intentional. There is corruption in this county. There's evidence that has been hidden. There's evidence that I believe has been destroyed, and we're going to get to all that. But That is the tragedy in this case, along with the treatment of Rick Allen. So now we're going to take a look at the families. You've got Becky and Mike Patty. That is Liberty's grandparents. Liberty's father, Derek German, he had Kelsey, which is Liberty's older sister, and Liberty. Their mother is named Carrie Timmons. She's right. Her photo is right next to Mike Patty and Becky Patty. And Carrie Timmons was treated horrible in this case. She was completely excluded. She lived in Kentucky. She was kept at bay. She was not kept abreast on the investigation of her daughter. And that is because when both girls were young, Derek and Carrie both ran into legal issues. And they both ended up serving time. And during that time, Mike and Becky Patty took the girls, and I believe it was supposed to be on a temporary basis. But when Carrie was stable and back on her feet, according to Carrie, Mike and Becky did not want to return the girls. And not being in a position financially or legally to fight them, ultimately the Pattys took custody of Liberty and Kelsey and raised them. So they're raising grandchildren. Now, Mike Patty is not Libby and Kelsey's biological grandfather. Their biological grandfather is Brad German. Then on the far right, we have Anna Williams, which was Abby's mom. She was a hardworking mother, seemed to be, very, very good at overseeing what Abby did. And my heart goes out to her because I feel like she's been kind of just drug along this case. And I almost feel like Anna it's just come to resonate that there's nothing that she can do. And speaking out is going to cause her more harm than good. So her saying, well, if Rick is innocent, they need to prove it. The jury said he was guilty, so he has to be guilty. So she's just kind of complacent in that state. And, and maybe I could be wrong. Maybe she fully believes that Rick is the man who did this. There's a poll in chat that I'd like for you guys to answer. And I need someone to remind me. I have it wrote down here to check it later. And the poll question is, do you believe that this was a crime of opportunity, or do you believe this was a targeted crime? And a crime of opportunity, I mean that if you think Rick is guilty, then it would be a crime of opportunity. If you think it was another lone wolf individual just happened to be out there on the trails that day and snatched the girls and did this, that would be a crime of opportunity. Targeted means it would be planned. Someone knew the girls were going to be out there. Someone lured the girls out there. And this was something that was set up in advance. And I think we have enough evidence and enough reason to believe that the girls were absolutely either lured out there, they were intending to meet someone, or those who wished to cause them harm knew they were going to be there. It was Monday the 13th. They had no school. They had been active online overnight. We have heard from some of the, Max Snowberger, some of the kids, Bride and Sandiford, who knew the girls were going to be on the trails that day. Several people knew the girls were going to be on the trail that day. So, and we don't know, Libby's phone had a lot of social media apps. And we don't know what correspondence she was making in those apps with different people. So who knows who knew what the girls' plans were. Now let's talk about Kelsey German. Kelsey German is Liberty's older sister. Kelsey had just gotten her license, And later on, Kelsey became what I would consider the spokesperson for the Patty family. And Kelsey was the individual who took the girls to the trails that day and dropped them off. And her story has not stayed the same. Her story has evolved. She's changed. You know, even the drop-off time of that day changed numerous times. 1 o'clock, 1:15, 1:20, 1:30. When ultimately the girls were actually let out of the car around 1:48 p.m. and Kelsey's vehicle was seen on a camera that was placed 30 seconds away from the drop-off point at 1:49. We will probably not go deep into Kelsey. There's other videos that we've done on her. You know, all of the interviews that she's gave. The one thing that I will say about Kelsey is that she does not seem bothered by the fact that that it matters when you're the last person to see two young girls alive. It doesn't seem to resonate with her that her changing of the story is a major big deal. And, you know, with her, it's, well, I misspoke, or so what, I said it, you know, in the heat of the moment, I wasn't thinking. Well, even 5 years later, we're still dealing with that. Quester, do you have anything to say about Kelsey?
Oh, I have a lot to say, but I don't think I ought to.
Oh, no, go ahead. I don't want to do all the talking.
Well, we back up a bit. First of all, you asked if it's opportunist or planned. My opinion is it's both.
Okay.
I think there was an intent to do something, and the visit to the trail provided the opportunity.
I can agree with that. I can absolutely agree with that.
The thing that bugs me is the speed of the planning. It's pretty certain that it was decided they were going to go to the trails on the night of the 12th,
Yes.
perhaps in the evening of the 12th,
Yes.
which gave them 16 hours to prepare all of this.
Mm-hmm.
That concerns me.
And you're right. You know, the girls, I believe, had it in their minds that they wanted to go to the trails, and they were trying to, you know, encourage their friends to go out there. You know, the trail system there in Delphi, first of all, it's a very beautiful trail system. I think it's even more beautiful now because it's been, it used to be a gravel trail, and now it's blacktop. You know, it's been kind of landscaped, and it's very serene out there. And it was a place for the kids to go. And it's shocking to me that a lot of people, including locals who had lived there for a very long time, many seem to not even know that the Monon High Bridge was out there. They knew the trail system was there, but they didn't realize that the trail system comes to an end at a old wood railroad trestle. We're going to go over the size of that bridge later on, but I'm surprised by that. But it was a good place for photographs. I know a lot of kids in the area took senior pictures out there, and it was just a place for the kids to hang out. It was secluded. Delphi is very small. It's very quaint. You know, it was just a place that I think that it was a teenage hangout. And I think that the girls were trying to encourage their friends all to hang out that day. They had, you know, the day off school. It was February, but it was a warmer day. It wasn't the warmest day of that weekend, by the way, but it was still nice and sunny. So when you say a crime of opportunity and a targeted crime, you almost have to believe that, this person knew the trails. And we're going to talk about, the eyewitnesses, and we're going to go over the trail system. And so, especially for those who are new to this case, they understand when we're describing, the Monon High Bridge, Freedom Bridge, the Mears, the Niches Trail. You have kind of a visual of the lay of the land. And it's not a very big trail system at all, but it's also got a lot of hidden areas that you need to, off of the main beaten path. You would have to know your way around, which is something to me that is, that plays an important role in this case. Which that's one of the things that does not fall into Rick Allen's favor. He was familiar with the trails. He went out there with his family all the time. But that also aligns with everybody else that lived out there in Delphi who frequented the trails. Just because you frequent a certain location doesn't mean that you are more prone to being a suspect than anybody else. So we're going to go over. Go ahead, Lester.
Well, the thing is, if you think about the serial killers of old, how many of those took their victims from a public place? Majority of them did.
Right.
Now, the logic behind that would be the person is off guard. The public around are off guard. Nobody expects. So it makes it a lot easier to snatch.
Mm-hmm.
If you think, go on.
No, you go.
If you then think about this case, it was known the previous evening, previous afternoon, that the girls were going to try to get to the trails. The time wasn't known, though. But they did know that most of their friends were saying, no, we can't go for this, that, and the other. So the question arises now, how did they know what time they were going to be there? Unless you start pointing your finger at family, you have to say that they did not know. Therefore, they had to turn up early, very early.
Mm-hmm.
Not at 1:30. It would have had to have been long before then, because the girls could have turned up any time of day.
Yeah, someone out there laying in wait, getting there early, and waiting for the girls to arrive. And personally, I think if you learn about Rick's personality and his demeanor and how everyone describes him, Rick is not a boisterous, overconfident man. He was a family man. They had a daughter. He worked at the CVS in town. He was never tipped in as a suspect. And to me, this kind of what happened to these girls, how it happened in broad daylight on a public trail system with literally people in the vicinity, it would take somebody who gave zero fucks about doing something like this and attempting to get away with it. That to me is not Rick. And some of you may disagree with me, but to me, you have to be a very overly confident person to attempt to do this, and not only do it, but get away with it for over 5 years. And especially in Rick's case, a crime of opportunity to cover your tracks for 5 years. We're going to get into the details of that, but that's my opinion on the crime of opportunity. And I'm aligned with you, Quester. I think that the opportunity and the target kind of fell hand in hand. And I probably should have made that a part of the poll. I should have asked you before I made it.
The other thing is, if this person was going to stake out, the last thing you do is put your getaway vehicle in broad daylight, right in front of where most people enter that public area, and then leave it there all day. Yeah?
Say that again?
The last thing you would do is park your getaway vehicle in broad daylight where majority of people enter the public space and leave it there nearly all day.
Correct.
Yeah?
Right.
The other thing is, there was clearly not enough time to come up with a perfect plan, because there had to be this opportunity element of when the girls arrived.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't perfect the lead up, then you can't perfect the crime, and you have to hope that you can perfect a cover up. Yeah?
Yes.
And when you look at this case, it's all a mess. Everyone's saying, oh, this is all planned and so on. It's a mess. It has traces of planning, but not of a great plan. And the cover up, I think, is where the clues are.
And I'll disagree with you on that last part about the plan, because we don't know what happened after 2:15. We don't, I mean, to me, the Apple Health data doesn't match up. And the fact that Libby's phone was so close to dying, the defense did not have Eldridge, who was their phone expert. They only had her, again, going back to the funding that the defense did not have for experts in this case. We had to crowdsource money for the defense to even get experts. So, and there are funds left over, but they were treading lightly on the money that was being spent. Not to mention, they had to secure their experts without knowing how much they were going to raise for Rick. So I understand them treading lightly in that area, but the phone was not completely dove into by Sarah Eldridge, or Stacey Eldridge. I'm sorry, Stacey. So we don't know if the phone stopped, the Apple Health stopped after a certain point, because that phone, think about this, all of you, everybody who owns a phone, we all do, that phone lasted from about 2:30 until, I think it was, the phone never died, did it? I can't remember. The phone never died.
It never died, but it went off and on.
At 4% the entire night in the cold. If it was in the cold, we don't know that. We don't know we don't know what happened. And that phone needs to be re-examined in depth by a forensic expert, because I believe they're going to uncover an astronomical amount of stuff. And I'm going to go again, I have no problem saying it. The phone itself, the report itself, I think we were only shown what the state wanted us to see. And I think there was some manipulation with the phone. And in fact, hang on to your seats if you're new to this case, this phone that was found at the crime scene was handed back to the family and then retrieved again as evidence. The family had access to that phone for a period of time. Things were deleted. There's problems with this phone. There's problems with the data that was pulled from the phone and the Cellubrite and the Knowledge C. There's problems, but I have never, ever heard of evidence in a murder trial or a murder investigation being let out of police custody and given to the family or given to anybody else for that matter, and then getting it back. And it's still being considered evidence, where the chain of custody hasn't been broken. That should alone right there, even though the phone data to this point to me doesn't help or hurt Rick, because we don't know beyond what we know. I mean, we don't know what was done with that phone and what the issues that we see with the phone actually mean. But that phone really should have been excluded from trial because the chain of custody had been broken and it had been given back, and it had been given back to the family. So we're going to go over. Go ahead.
So there's bizarre things going on. For instance, we all know about the events at 4:33 in the morning on the 14th, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah. But there's one event that Ellie kept a little bit quiet upon. We know that at 4:33 there was FaceTime calls from Peyton coming into the phone. There was I think it was about 15 SMS that the phone received, something like that. There was a whole slew of excuse me, of operational changes eventing in the phone. But there was one other thing that happened. AT&T, they were asked to locate the phone, weren't they, at 04:33.
Mm-hmm.
Slap bang in the middle of all this stuff that the phone was busy doing. They located it, didn't they?
Yeah, it's pinging out. It's pinging out there.
Yeah. I won't go into where it pinged at the moment, but they located it. The question: why didn't Ellie feel that should have been brought into trial?
There was a lot that the state didn't want in trial.
Yeah, a lot. This phone was a very busy phone.
So some names that you're going to hear a lot going forward, besides Kelsey German, is one of her good friends, Bree Wilbur. Bree Wilbur and Kelsey were good friends. In fact, Kelsey was dating Bree's older brother, Chase. Bree Wilbur lived literally a hop, skip, and a jump from the trail system. And she and a group of her friends were out on the trails that day, before Abby and Libby were dropped off. So we're gonna talk about Bree later on, and we're not going to get into all of the rumors and the speculation, but there are questionable things about what the girls actually did, not Abby and Libby, but Bree and the group of friends that she was with. What their movements were on the trail and where they went. There's some discrepancy about them going under the bridge, how they actually got to under the bridge that morning. And so Bree Wilbur is someone that you guys are going to hear a lot about. And speaking of phones, KK was was told to clean up his phone in one instance. Otherwise, yes. And Anna Lissette, you're right. Let me pop that on the screen real quick. Speaking of phones, KK, which was a suspect in this case, still a suspect as far as the majority of us are concerned. KK, which is Keegan Klein, was merely told to clean up his phone in one instance. Otherwise, one was hidden in a microwave, and he was allowed to run loose for 3 years while evidence was destroyed. That is correct. Keegan Klein was a suspect in this case early on. There was a search warrant served at his father's home where he lived. I believe it was February 25th or 27th. It was very shortly after the murders. And they knew that he had been in contact with Libby. Keegan Klein was a overweight sexual predator. He sold and exchanged child CSAM online. He posed as a fake person communicating with young girls online. And that alone, law enforcement knew in February. And he was let to walk the streets for another 3 years. And no, he has not been charged in this case.
If I recall, he was never found to have turned up to any of his victims. He was collecting vile pictures and selling them on and things like that, wasn't he?
He was. Keegan Kline was not somebody who he was not an attractive person at all. And so he operated under probably more than two, but he operated under the name Anthony Schatz. And he used a young guy who was a model. He used his photo and the name Anthony _Schatz. And then he also operated under an account operating as a female, Emily Ann. And he's a compulsive liar. So the more you get into this case and the more you learn about him, you kind of lean on the fence that you have to take everything he says with a grain of salt and wonder if what he's saying, if it's half truths, because he's a compulsive liar. And he is serving, I believe, a 40-some year sentence for all of the charges that he did receive. And he comes back around in this case, which we'll get to. He's not somebody who was looked at and that was the end of the story. He does reappear in this case in a very important way. So we'll get to that. Hold on one second. Let me check my phone. So on the screen right now, I'm gonna just kind of briefly read off the names of law enforcement that in this case, these names come up extensively. You've got Doug Carter, who was the Indiana State Police Superintendent. He was basically the spokesperson, the face of this case in the public, for the most part, with big press conferences. You have Tony Liggett, who at the time was not the sheriff. Tobe Lesenby was the sheriff at the time that this crime happened. But Tony Liggett, by the time this case went to trial, was the sheriff. Tobe Lesenby, he is now the former Carroll County sheriff. He is no longer with Carroll County. He has moved on to a different department, a different county. Jerry Holman is an Indiana State Police investigator who, through the course of this case and the trial and after, received promotions. He is somebody that I do not care for. He is a liar. We can visually hear him, see him, read depositions, and see where he's lied. He was very much orchestrating hiding the Turco professor that was consulted in this case about the Odin religion and the symbols left at the crime scene. He orchestrated a lot of different things. And he also was an individual who has been accused of, there was a death in this case. Someone committed suicide. And we believe that Jerry Holman was the one who basically sent this person over the edge. You've got David Vito, who is an investigator. Steve Mullins, who is a former Delphi Police Chief Investigator. You've got Dan Doolin, who was a conservation officer. Dan Doolin is the one who originally met with and spoke with Rick Allen. You've got Brian Harshman with Indiana State Police, Kevin Murphy, Todd Click, and Greg Ferenczi. They were all investigators, and those three were hot and heavy into the odorous theory in this case that was very early on pursued by law enforcement as a whole. Don't let anyone tell you that it was a figment of the imagination of the defense team, because that's not true. Roland Purdy, an investigator. Brian Olay, he's an ISP crime scene investigator. Jason Page was also the crime scene investigator. And Patrick Cicero, who was also, he had a couple of different roles. He was a bloodstain pattern expert and also a crime and did the crime scene testimony. So before we move on, I have a guest who has just arrived. And the reason I'm bringing this guest on, I think most of you will be familiar with him. And if I could get a mod to go out to American Betrayed and drop his YouTube channel link in the chat for me so everyone can go over and subscribe to his channel. I've done multiple interviews with him. He's done multiple interviews with other creators in this case and other people who have knowledge. And I'm bringing him on because I feel his insight. He's not a long, avid follower of this case. He's someone brand new to the case and has taken the initiative to get to know the players, the stories on both sides. And I think that his insight as to what he's learned, and he has seen this case, I believe, on both sides, guilters versus those who support Rick Allen's innocent. So without further ado, let me bring on Terrible Ted. Hey, Ted.
Hey, good afternoon to you, Amy, and Quester as well. Thank you much.
You're welcome. And if you guys recognize the voice, he is also the voiceover in the opening video for the marathon. So I owe him a great debt for doing that for me. He couldn't have done a better job. So Ted, how long ago did you get into this case when you started digging in, and what made you dig in?
Well, it was back in April, and I do remember seeing the Bridge Guy video back in 2017. I saw it on news reports here in the Midwest. I have family that live in the Midwest, and I'm familiar with some of the areas there in that state, but I saw the video back then and I thought, yeah, wow, that's creepy. Gee, but I'm not a true crime native. I like political conspiracy stuff, corruption. That is my bread and butter for over 2 decades now. And I got started with that sort of controversial stuff back in my teenage days with the JFK assassination. So I'm no stranger to going through a controversial story or a case and trying to see, well, gee, does this really make sense, or is there more to the story? And I think most things probably are pretty straightforward with most crimes and all that. I have a friend, and I know I told you this story recently, but I have this friend that we have several interests in, and he kind of told me for years, he's like, look, we talk about DC and politics and stuff like that, but he has always been adamant that there is stuff happening at the local level, places you wouldn't expect. So I was like, yeah, okay, I've heard this all before. And so he was trying to tell me stuff over the years, and I didn't really get what he was trying to tell me. He would mention certain names, and I wasn't in this case, didn't really know about it, right? So it kind of just went over my head. Yeah, I'm sure. Like, I'm not surprised. I've seen and heard it all. Crazy stuff no one would believe. I don't doubt it. So anyways, back in April of this year, I happened somehow, I didn't seek it out, but I happened to stumble across a couple of YouTube videos about Delphi. And I think the first one that I saw was, it might have been R&M or someone else. I know several people have covered all the Ron Logan stuff, but I went back and watched the initial news reports that Ron Logan did with local media. And I was reading the comments and I was like, wow, these people are all thinking the same thing, all the same thoughts that are going through my head. This guy vaguely resembles like Bridge Guy, and this guy's kind of odd. So I started learning like, oh, he's the property owner where the girls' bodies were found. Ooh, that's who wants to be that guy? That's not a good way to get involved in something. So I slowly like watched, of course, more YouTube videos, and Ron Logan was like the first suspicious thing that caught my attention. And I've made this comment elsewhere on previous interviews. If Ron Logan would have just shut up on the 14th, 15th, if he would have just shut up and never said anything, never got in front of a camera, never said a word to a microphone, I don't know if I ever would have looked at this case as deeply or cared about it or tried to figure out, like, because that was my first, like, what the hell's going on here? This guy seems awfully suspicious and creepy, and it's his property where the girls' bodies were found. Okay, who is this guy? This isn't the guy that they just convicted. That's another guy. So what's going on here? So, of course, I started watching more YouTube videos, and I'm reading the comments, and I'm seeing what everyone's saying, right? I'm doing like a heat check on myself. Am I crazy, or are other people thinking what I'm thinking here? So Ron Logan was the first one. And then the next controversial thing that I saw allegations being made in the comment section of YouTube videos. I don't remember which ones, but there were people scoffing, more or less. I read it as people scoffing, and people were in the comments were trying to turn people away from thinking that there are weird ritual, satanic, occult symbols at the crime scene. And there were comments mocking that idea, and, oh, you're crazy if you think that. And so I thought, why are there people trying to turn people away from looking at that? And so I tried to go see, well, can I see the crime scene photos? Are they out there? And I couldn't find them. I couldn't see them. So I eventually got my hands on a 1,200 page PDF file that's from the defense team. And
whoa. You've not shared that with me.
Yeah. And it's, other people have asked me, what's the name of it? And it's just, I think it's a non-confidential supplementary exhibit, and there's 5 pieces to it. It's 1,200 pages. There are some images from Facebook of Brad Holder and Elvis Fields at the beginning.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about one of the volumes.
Yeah.
All of the volumes together.
The latter half of it is like 5, 6, 7 depositions of everyone in Unified Command. So I wanted to go back through the depositions, and I wanted to see now hold on a second. Does Unified Command deny that these symbols and weird sort of things are at the crime scene? That was my first thing that I wanted to figure out and try to sift through, because you're telling me a controversial murder case, if there are, ritualistic, satanic, symbolic things left at the crime scene, that immediately sends my radar up, right? Like, whoa, hold on here. What's this about? And so I read through the depositions, and it took a long time. It took several days, and I had my interest peaked enough to like work my way through it and try to finish it. So I did. And of course I'm seeing, and I thought I knew a lot of crazy stuff, and I've heard crazy stuff. I would think I've seen and heard it all here with internet controversies over the past 2 decades, but the Odinism thing was new to me. I'm not totally alien or foreign to extremist groups or anything like that. I thought I was pretty well acquainted, but I totally was unaware of the Odinist thing. So
the one thing that I admire about you is because, you've not been in this very long, but when we do speak, you're very knowledgeable of, you've learned a lot about this case from the beginning until now. Now, I want to back up a little bit. When you talked about seeing the Bridge Guy video, at that time, when you said, oh, that's creepy, I would like, from an outsider looking in who doesn't know the case, we were told for years why that video had been kept under wraps. It was so scary and so tragic. And when you first saw it and you thought it was creepy, what was your sense what was your inner sense of watching that? Did you feel the girls were scared? Did you feel they were acquainted with the man behind them? What was your first initial? Do you remember what you felt when you watched it?
Before knowing all the information that I've come across now, I thought, oh, it's a creepy, weird guy who happened to follow these girls out in the middle of nowhere. And this is probably the guy, some weird, creepy guy. And that, absent of any other context, that's what I chalked it up to. Oh, some creepy old guy got lucky, grabbed girls. I mean, it probably happens every day. You just don't hear about it.
Did you think the girls were scared? Did you get the impression the girls were scared?
I did.
Did you? Okay.
And so of course I've seen it since. But I sort of got the impression that you watch and I think, in my opinion, you can hear Abby, she's trying to look down so she can place her steps and not fall through the cracks of the planks. And she's trying to speed up because she knows bridge guy's behind her. And she says, mouthing quietly, is he still behind me? And I believe I heard that. I believe that's clear.
She does say something in reference to that. Yeah, she does. Is he coming or is he back there? Yeah. And
I just look, I don't know, I'm just a guy on the internet watching this, so I can't tell you in depth the why and how of all this, but I believe that's why Libby was taking the video, because there was this man following them, and that was just her quick thinking of not knowing what else to do in the moment. Videoing it might protect her, and that was my first impression, and I sort of stick to that. I think that's a reasonable thing.
So with first of all, I want everyone to understand that, I'm encouraging everyone to go follow American Betrayed, which is his YouTube channel. He's just returned to YouTube. You did take a break. For how long did you take a break from YouTube?
Yeah, I've actually, I remember the first, YouTube's been around a long time, believe it or not. And it used to be, now it's very polished, and like, you got to be like a part-time movie director and have really good editing software and all this to do these big videos that get 500,000 or 1 million views, like Mr. Beast type stuff. But yeah, I've been around YouTube stuff. There was a big purge probably 10 years ago. If you talked about stuff that was too hot for TV, they had a process of banning everyone and kicking them off. And even if you weren't violating rules or talking about spicy stuff, there were wars where, if you had enemies, they could report you and get you thrown off. I'm surprised that hasn't hit Delphi in a big way from what I can tell. Maybe it has, but yeah, the social media stuff is not new. You just get to a point where you've been banned and kicked off so many places, you just kind of give up and go somewhere else. And so I kind of just resigned myself to, well, I'm not going to get kicked off Rumble, so I'll just go there. That's better than nothing. And so, yeah, I've been around here. I always try to stay sort of behind the scenes. I never wanted my name or face out there, just because the nature of stuff that I talk about, it's too hot. I was watching your Julie Melvin interview last night. She told the story, people they find out who you are, they call your work just because they don't like what you say on the internet. And so I knew this stuff is not new. It's not new. It happened in every other controversial thing that I've been involved in the past. This is nothing new. It'll happen in everything else. And I've been aware of this, and I never wanted to pay a big price. So after a while of the controversy and stuff, it kind of gets old. And so I've always tried to stay behind the scenes, and I never wanted to get too far into the stuff. So that's my reasoning why. So
with all of the wide range of things that you are interested in, which true crime is not one of them, on a scale of 1 to 10, after you've done extensive interviews with people who have been on the case for years. I know outside of the interviews that we've done, we've spoke on the phone for hours at a time. On a scale of 1 to 10, based on everything that you've seen, what is the level of corruption in this case that you believe you're seeing on a scale of 1 to 10?
This is at least an 8. Like
Okay.
this, and I say that just because this is like, this is backwoods, small town, flyover America, right? It's Indiana. Right. It's not Chicago. It's not LA. It's not New York City. And so I'm used to stories on like the national level that are big like that. But this is like this is True Detective season 1. Like this has all the twists, all the turns, all the surprises, all the drama. Like this, you couldn't write a Hollywood movie this good. Like this really? This has the ups and downs. It's got the loop-de-loops. It's got the intrigue. It's got everything. And of course, it's got the drama to go along with it that everyone loves, right? And so right. This I never would have guessed that this would happen in small town flyover America like it did. And I'm not saying that law enforcement or the family or I'm not accusing them of being involved. I'm just saying the way this thing turned out is crazy. All the third-party suspects, the alternate suspects, the persons of interest. Just if you were to follow the story and go through all the POIs from early 2017, 2018, the Thomas Bruces, the Paul Edders, James Brian Chadwell, all these degenerate, weirdo, criminal people. This is like frightening stuff that this happened in small town America. So I've told you before, Amy, and I'll say it again. I still believe this. And I know there's a ton of big stories going on right now. There's Nolan Wells, Lindsay Clancy. Like there's a tsunami of big stories that people are paying attention to. If people could just get a taste of this story somehow, some way, like I cannot believe this goes as deep and that there's so much. It's not open and shut. There's like a never ending line of info and investigation and people behind the scenes that is incredible. I can't believe it goes this deep. And so that's why I say I can't believe this story happened here. It's I never would have guessed that it goes as deep as this, that there's intrigue and cover up. I mean, that I don't know. Is there, you're more into this. I know you do the wrongful conviction thing. Is there any other story? Because this has been a roller coaster ride, and I don't know. You tell me. Is there a crazier story that you know of?
Controversial wise, I think, okay. So I started, I've always been, I used to work for the Columbus Police. I know in the radio room, dispatching 911. And I know how law enforcement works. So I'm not anti-law enforcement. And I understand the brotherhood, and in a big department, I think the corruption is harder to get away with. In a smaller department, such as Carroll County, I think that for years, they're off the grid. There's no one, there's crime there, but nothing that has put Delphi on the map in the past. But my first real corruption case, wrongful conviction case that I really was absolutely obsessed with was the Stephen Avery Brendan Dassey case. And there are a lot of parallels to the Stephen Avery Brendan Dassey to this case. And I do believe that Stephen Avery was framed. And I do believe that Stephen Avery was framed because he had already served an 18-year sentence for a rape that he did not commit. And he was exonerated by DNA. And he was going through he was filing suit against the state. And he was able to prove that his arrest and his incarceration was perpetrated by law enforcement. There's also with that case a sketch artist who pulled some really crazy shenanigans behind the scenes, literally showed the victim a mugshot of Stephen Avery while he was drawing the sketch of her describing her attacker. In this case, we have a sketch artist who tells Sarah Carball, who claimed that she saw Muddy Bloody Guy, that, hey, we can cheat. I'm going to pull out the bridge guy photo and we can cheat. So there's a lot of parallels. And Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey, you know, they were tried separately for the murder of Teresa Halbach. And at each of their trials, the state's case and the way the victim was murdered were both different. They were tried. It's unbelievable that this happened. And if Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey were ever to be exonerated, they would bankrupt the state of Wisconsin. And after Stephen Avery was exonerated from his first conviction, basically the insurance company who insures law enforcement there in Manitowoc County and in Wisconsin, basically were told, you have overstepped the line and you are not, you know, a lawsuit against you as an individual, you're not going to be covered. So you're talking pensions, you're talking losing their careers. There's a lot of people involved with that. And at this point, that is when the orchestration of framing Stephen Avery to prevent the lawsuit from going forward. And ultimately the lawsuit did go forward. However, the money ended up being spent on his defense. And he'll never get out because he will bankrupt the state of Wisconsin. And I'm eager to see how this case with Rick Allen is going to play out, because if the state of Indiana follows the law, Rick is going to get a second trial, or his conviction is going to be thrown out altogether, and the state will have a decision to decide if they're going to retry him or not. But if the state is going to protect their own and not follow the law and protect the financial, you know, the prevention of being sued and the exposure that would come with that, we're going to see. So I'm going to say Stephen Avery, but ultimately, I think the world for the first time got to see how real law enforcement corruption can be in the Reed case. That was on and is still on full display for the world to see. And that is why you see such a movement and support system behind Karen Reed, because they're so outraged by it. And I think that if this case would have been televised, we would have seen that here. And I really hope that the powers that be going forward, if Rick does get relief and there is another trial, that something can be done to ensure that there's cameras in the courtroom. The transparency is far long overdue.
Yeah, I know nothing of that particular case, so maybe sometime if I ever get fully satisfied that we've done all we can do with Delphi, you'll have to guide me by the hand again, and I'll take a look at that case out of Wisconsin. That sounds interesting. But yeah, this story is unbelievable. I can't believe that you just turn over these rocks and you find all these interesting characters. And I got very lucky, Amy, that I was scouring through the comment sections on YouTube and I saw your comment under a particular video about something that, and I don't want to get off on that, but your comment like cut through as I was reading, scrolling down the page, reading all these comments. Like, I could tell you clearly knew more about this situation by your comment than anyone else in the comments. So I got to talk to this person. So I sent you a message and I was just blown away the first time we spoke, and you showed me, we talked for like 5-6 hours, and guys, Amy was showing me documents, names, places, very specific storylines, and these were none of the names that I had read in 1,200 pages of documents or seen on YouTube from other creators. I was just like, my mind was spinning after we did that first initial session where you went through all your research, and I thought, my God, I don't even have a clue. I'm like scraping the tip of the iceberg with the stuff in that. It's like, why did I even read that 1,200 page document? I should have just immediately went to you and said, take me by the hand through this. So blown away.
Do you have well, for my first question is, what do you think we are lacking? Quester and I, other creators who have, you know, this is a, I mean, I probably have about 50 hours wrapped up in this, just preparing for this marathon. That doesn't go into all the hours for the Vault series, and the live streams about this case outside of the Vault. I mean, it is literally a full-time job on top of a full-time job. And I'm wondering if you have advice or knowledge of how do we break through? How do we break through that ceiling of getting the spotlight on this case in a manner where public pressure is going to make a difference? Do you have an opinion on that based on, I know you've been looking at this, but this is not, I mean, I think people know the Delphi case, but do they really know the Delphi case? And that's why we're doing this marathon, to talk about a lot of the things that we don't normally talk about on the Vault. But do you have advice on, you know, what we need to do as a community to break through?
I do, and I think I brought this up with you previously some time ago, and I'm not saying that it's 100% or it's going to work, but this is just from me being around and doing social media stuff, and there are probably a lot of people on YouTube, on social media, that do awesome work, whether it's like true crime stuff, or they do some other topic, politics, news, whatever it is. But I'm telling you, there is something with social media where it's not totally organic. You think it's free and open and it's organic, and that potentially, you know, 7 billion people can see you on YouTube. All they got to do is go to youtube.com and they might see you. I don't think it is that way. I think social media, they're able to throttle this and keep people in a cage. And it's my understanding that you have to like pay to play. I think this is the way it is on Twitter too. They want you to pay like $40 a month, and you'll get your tweets seen by more people, and more people will reply. There is a sort of artificial thing that we have to break through to see more people. And I think you guys, I think I mentioned this. I think you have like a winning poker hand here. I don't think you need to do any more work. Like, if you stop tomorrow, you've got it all. You've got it all there in the Vault. What I want to speak directly to your fans, your listeners, your watchers. If you want to help Amy, and you want to help Delphi, and you want to really rattle their cages and try to get some traction on this story, take all the work that Amy's done, whatever you think is a good intro video for a new person, and start cold emailing, cold calling whoever is big out there on YouTube. And I don't know if you guys like this person, but like a Tucker Carlson, there are people out there that are big talk show hosts, that they need content. They need new stories. They're tired of talking about Trump, or they're tired of talking about Democrats and Republicans every day. They need new stuff. They're dying for stories like this that will blow them away. So to all your listeners, all your friends, take Amy's stuff and start, whoever it is, Jillian Michaels. I don't even know who are the Candace Owens. She's kind of tied up with the Charlie Kirk stuff, but remember the old talk show hosts like The View or Oprah?
Mhm.
Like these people, whoever's big on YouTube, I'm not familiar with the scene of who has great talk shows on YouTube, but those are the people we need to get, the people with like 500,000 to 1 million subscribers. And I'm glad that there's a lot of females in this space, because you guys can break through and make connections with some of these big female influencers. I think they would love this story. They just don't know this story exists. And I'm telling you, this has everything people want in a story. It's got the ups and downs, the twists and turns, the plot twists, the intrigue, the mystery. It's all there. And you guys have documented it from A to Z. It's just that people out there don't know it exists. And that's my big impression with social media today and the internet. It's hard to break through and to reach the masses. You think you're on a free and open platform, whether it's Facebook or YouTube. I'm telling you, you're throttled, and they want you to pay to play. If you get on Twitter and you're willing to pay whatever, $40, $50, $100 a month, they'll give you more views. That it's no longer like it was a decade or 2 decades ago, where it's free and open and you could have a viral video overnight with 2 million views. I don't think that exists anymore. So your next best approach, all the people who love Case by Case and love Amy, take her stuff. You decide whatever video is good, like a good overview, and start cold emailing, cold calling these bigger talk shows that I'm sure you guys watch other stuff. You like other people. Have them get Amy on to talk about the Delphi thing. And I'm telling you, we just got to break through that sort of glass ceiling that's there on this story. Don't waste your time arguing with the idiots that are never going to change their mind. You're wasting your time, wasting your breath. There's a whole planet of 7 billion people that are open ears, and they'll be totally receptive to hearing this story. So don't waste your time in the Facebook groups arguing with people and the same old drama. I know it's so easy to get.
It is. So yeah, I mean, I look at it like you're educating somebody, and then there for a minute I was in a group. I did a live on it because it's so shocking to me how naive people can be. And on top of being naive, it's so shocking how people are so willing to disregard the justice system. And, if people need to understand in a case like this, and the treatment of Rick Allen, regardless of guilt or innocence, prior to being in front of a judge and being judged by a jury, he was treated as a guilty man. And if you think that's okay because you think he's guilty, then you're basically accepting that's how you should be treated, whether you are guilty or not, or you have been found guilty or not. That is the hurdle that I can't get over, is how accepting people are of allowing things like this to be a norm. It should not. I think that we've gotten away from norms in this country, or the fact that some people are so disgusted. And I get that some people watch the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock headline news, and that's it for them for the day, and they don't pay attention to details. And following a case like this, besides the off-the-cuff documentaries, I think the big one was the Hulu documentary, but the Hannah Shakespeare Lost documentary, a lot of the smaller ones, that's not mainstream. People who are going to watch those are people who have been following the case, and they're not getting the full story unless they're watching something like that, and even there, it's pieces and parts. So I just feel like I'm banging my head against the brick wall. Not just me, but I mean, there's other great creators in this case that we need to break the glass ceiling and get eyes on this case. So I appreciate your advice. So that was a good answer. That's kind of helpful. What else did I want to ask you? So have you in your mind and your review and knowledge and speaking with, numerous people, have you come to kind of a weighing of who you think is responsible for this crime? Because we do have a lot of very valid third-party suspects. That it's not just, it could have been. No, we have some real serious third-party suspects who have nexuses to where Rick has none. So where do you mentally do you gauge an opinion on who you think is responsible for this crime?
Oh, you had to ask me an impossible question. I'm the one who's supposed to be asking you that question, Amy. You're the one. You're supposed to be telling me, because I'm like tearing my hair out at this point. I'm so glad I came into this late and not years ago, because I would have, just like you said, bang my head against the wall, tear my hair out. This thing would have driven me crazy. And I kind of feel for some of those people. I've gone back and seen some of those YouTube videos from like 2017, 2018, where they have nothing to go on.
Yeah.
But they want to do a video. I mean, they were trying to do the impossible. And I really feel bad for those people, because I love a good story and a good mystery, just like anyone else, and trying to figure out who done what, and I feel so bad for those people. I came in at the right time. Everyone did all the heavy lifting, and I got the benefit of reading everyone else's research. And I'm actually glad I was late, because this thing must have driven people crazy for years. So I defer to you, and I defer.
No, I want to know your opinion. I want to know where.
You know what? I don't think Richard Allen had anything to do with it. I really don't. Now, it's possible. Of course, he's in the ballpark of possibility, because he admitted to being out there that day. Okay. And look, I don't know Richard Allen, and I'm not here to wipe his nose for him or to act like he's some great person and all. I don't know him. But from the evidence that I've seen, I don't think he had anything to do with it. It's circumstantial at best. And so I'm not Mother Teresa, and I'm not perfect by any means, but my interest in the case came from, holy crap, I think an innocent guy's been railroaded into prison. I can't believe this. Mm-hmm. That is the angle that really, that's my focus. This is scary stuff. If you can cooperate in any kind of, murder investigation, homicide investigation, and somehow be sucked into it and become the main suspect. And so, I got into libertarianism as a teenager. And so I'm not an expert. I didn't go to law school, anything like that, but I know a little bit about foundations, and, we need to have evidence to prosecute people. And I don't see, there's no murder weapon. There's no DNA at the crime scene tying Allen to the crime scene. This stuff, that is scary. The fact that you can just be a good person, right? A stand-up citizen trying to help, and you get sucked into this. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think Richard Allen had anything to do with it. I really don't. But if he did, if I'm missing something and he did, then so be it. You know what I mean? Put him in the electric chair, hang him, whatever you guys decide to do. But I don't think he did. And if I'm missing something, please, I'm all ears. I've already gone through a ton of stuff. I'll sit through another 5-10 minutes of stuff. If you can convince me that Richard Allen and he alone did this, then so be it. But I think an innocent man has been railroaded and convicted of this, and that is a frightening prospect, on top of the other stuff I already mentioned, all the other 17, 18, 19 POIs, these scumbags that are out here in mm-hmm. small town America. The fact that girls can be on their phones and be interacting with these scumbags that are trying to seduce them or human traffic them. This stuff all combines together it's a very ugly whirlwind of just frightening stuff for everyday people to kind of open their eyes and realize this is out there, even in small town America. So I told you recently, I think the drug angle is hard. That is very hard for me to dismiss and get away from and act like, no, that's not easily dismissed in my mind.
Mhm.
That and then recently, I've had some guests that they don't believe that Keegan Klein had anything to do with it. I'm of the other opinion. I do think Ron Logan is intimately tied into this somehow, some way, to some degree. And I think Keegan too. That's, there's no getting away from the stuff that he told police, the hiding of the cell phone, the wiping of it, the marathon gas station footage that went missing conveniently. That it's hard for me to believe that the FBI is at fault for that. I would think it'd be the other way around for the goof up. So that's very interesting to me. Is Keegan Klein an independent operator? Does he stand on his own 2 feet and do the CSAM business? Or is he a contractor? Is he a soldier? Is he connected to other people? Where does he get his stuff from? That thought crossed my mind recently. The Keegan Klein being tied into the Alexis, Galveston, Indiana, February 20th. She had messaged, and local Indiana, I have the video clips. Who
is this again?
There was a schoolgirl, I believe her name is Alexis, and she was a classmate or friend of Abby and Libby, from what I recall. But on February 20th, she gets off the school bus and goes home.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, her name's not I don't think her name's Alexis, but go ahead. Yeah, you're talking about the ski mask.
Yeah, this is the ski mask man story. And from what I read, okay, don't crucify me yet, but from what I read, the ski mask man incident, when the schoolgirl called the police and told them what happened, she told police that I had messaged the Anthony Shots account and said, hey, my parents won't be home on this day. Come over and we can hook up at my house. And so the police, this is how they got the search warrant to raid the Kleins on February 25th. It's because of the Anthony Shots thing. And it led not to Richard Allen, not to Ron Logan. It led to Keegan Klein. Okay. And so I've tried to brush up on that recently, like in the past week here, and gone back through that. So Keegan Klein seems, from what I understand, all the people on the guilter side, I think there's old clips of them even saying, I think Keegan Klein's involved and there's no getting around it. So I think a lot of people know that the Keegan Klein thing is very hard to dismiss.
Do you have an opinion about Bridge Guy being Ron Logan? Does Ron Logan look? Does Bridge Guy look to you like it could be Ron Logan?
It could be. You would think if someone said, oh, hey, did you know there's a murder mystery from 2017 and they got video footage of the guy behind the girls and they're pretty sure that's the guy responsible for the murders? I think anyone just knowing that would be like, oh, they got video footage? Oh, this should be a slam dunk. But apparently it wasn't. Apparently it's not. Apparently they can't clean up that image anymore. I'll tell you what, Rick Snay told me he thinks it's Bridge Guy. I've seen the image analysis that Lois Gibson did, and she says, she doesn't say conclusively that it is Ron Logan. She says there's a very strong resemblance and she cannot eliminate Ron Logan. Okay. So that speaks to me. Chris Todd thinks it's Ron Logan. A lot of people think it's Ron Logan, and I'm new to all this. So who am I to tell them wrong? But I got to tell you, Amy, when you told me that you don't think it's Ron Logan, that was like, whoa. Well, hold on here. If Amy, I'd be willing to go with Amy on just about anything. I'll sign on anything she says at this point, based on what she's already shown me. So that made me kind of think, oh, I don't know. I'm like 80%. I'm 80% that Bridge Guy's Ron Logan. But yeah, I defer to you. I mean, you showed me stuff, and I don't know if we want to. I'll roll with you on just about anything here. So.
I have a lot of reasons why I don't believe that Ron Logan is Bridge Guy. Not in appearance, the appearance of Bridge Guy is at the top of the list. However, I have other reasons, which we will probably get into tomorrow, because we're going to get into Ron Logan tomorrow, and Chris Todd will be here. I have a lot of other reasons, and however, for me, I'm at a cross point with the luring versus opportunity. If the girls were lured out there, if we can get any evidence of that, then I believe that Keegan Kline would be involved. I don't believe that I can't see Keegan Kline physically being involved, rolling around the trails, so to speak. But as far as setting it up, luring the girls, then I could say I agree. But from my standpoint, Ron Logan, I believe that Ron Logan had knowledge of what was going down or knew it was going down. I just don't know if I see him. I have stronger opinions that going somewhere else than Ron Logan being the actual knife wielding killer. Maybe so my opinion about who I think did it, it's my opinion. And I understand that a lot of people get frustrated that they don't, for whatever reason. I've been blessed to make friends and have connections. And I think I try to stay very, very credible, because I want my voice to matter. So people don't always know what I know and why I feel the way that I feel. And the work that I did behind the scenes with Ashley Garth's case that I'm still doing gave me some insight to that underworld. If you guys want to learn about those seedy characters, I do have a video out. It's called The Delphi Underground. Part 1, I feel, was a huge eye-opener to a lot of people. But I am also not so heels dug in on my opinion that I'm not able to see, the forest for the trees. I am willing to entertain every rabbit hole, every suspect. And to me, there are 3 third-party suspect groups that I feel are still as viable today as they were before the trial. And that would be the white supremacy, hijacking, the Asatru, Nordis pagan beliefs that cannot be eliminated. The fact that there's a connection between people down in Rushville and people up here in Delphi, that just can't be ignored. And it's not been like everything else. It's never been fully put to rest. Number 2 is obviously Ron Logan. If Ron Logan, if this happened, I seen a comment earlier in the chat that said that Ron Logan saw the girls from his property. Absolutely impossible. You cannot see the bridge from Ron Logan's property. You might see pieces and parts, but he wouldn't have been able to look out his back window and say, "Oh, there's 2 pretty little girls on the bridge." No, there's no way. He didn't. If he acted alone, he didn't happen. There's someone else involved, and who that is with Ron Logan, I don't know. If Ron Logan was involved, but whether he was the knife wielder, I do believe that he had knowledge of the act occurring or going to occur, or was told immediately. I don't believe he was told immediately after the fact because of him pursuing to get a false alibi before the bodies were even found. And then, of course, the drug angle, which for me, that is the strongest. That, when you put these 3 things in 3 different boxes, and then you kind of, like a family tree, build out the tentacles. The drug angle for me has the most tentacles. It has the most rationale. It has the reason for this, the silence, the reason for Libby seemingly being the target, the fear in the community, the involvement with law enforcement, and possibly being on the payroll of drug dealers in the community, allowing, meth and everything else to be, moved in and moved out. So, their lack of charging who actually did this crime would be self-preservation. And the silence of Liberty German's father, Derek German, not saying a word about the loss of his daughter, staying silent, the Patties publicly portraying an image of Derek that's completely false when they know exactly what Derek was involved with. There's a lot more to me that aligns with the drug angle and the timing of it all. With Derek German being a CI, the information that we know exists behind the scenes that he was willing to testify. He had already thrown multiple homies under the bus that did very long prison sentences where he really did none. So that's for me, but I'm still open to the other two possibilities. I do not believe that this was somebody who just, pulled into the parking lot from another, happened to be a passerby, pulled into the parking lot and took a walk on the trail and then just decided, oh shit, let me just, yank these girls off the trail here and kill them. That the randomness to me is I don't buy that. I don't believe that we're dealing with a killer who is not center stage in one of these three groups. Whether it's a name we've heard or not heard, I think if the truth ever comes out, it's going to be someone that is affiliated with one of these three groups. That's just my opinion. Quester, do you have an opinion?
Yeah, I've got a few opinions. Hi, Ted. Sorry it's been taking so long to say that, but I was busy listening to you. But yeah, my opinion is Ron Logan, he knew something was going down. He got out of the way, or he was told to get out of the way. I'm also, at the moment, on the same line as you, that this was drug-related. And I believe Derek German knows a lot more than he's not saying. And I believe the police do as well. There's so much that has been shut down on this case. It's unbelievable. Yeah, Ted was saying about it's got all the makings of a good story. But I think if you wrote this story, people would laugh and say, come on, nobody's going to believe this. There is so much involved in going backwards and forwards. And for instance, the tentacles, yeah. Ted was saying about the person who looked through the bedroom, Kylie, I think, bedroom. Well, Kylie is a good friend of Anna Spath, isn't she? Anna Spath, one of the 4 girls that saw BG, the one girl that was not called as a witness. There's so many strange things in this game. You agree? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, my mic was muted. I agree. But Quester, before you and I started working together, did you have a different opinion?
Well, I think I've explained to you the way that I work is right from the start, I create opinions. Loads of them. Mm-hmm. He did it. He did it. He did it.
Yeah.
And then I bust every opinion I can and see what's left. It took years to do that. And it came down to there's only a couple left. And the one right at the top is the drug side. Odinism in my opinion, the only involvement that Odinism has is that it was used, and badly used, to try and deflect and cover.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes us back to... Sorry?
I said I agree.
No, but yeah, and that takes us back to what I was saying earlier about the planning. There wasn't enough time to plan perfectly. The execution of it was sloppy. Therefore, the perps would have to fall back on a cover-up. And Odinism is such a great one because you get all the weirdos screaming, look at this. You get all the wow factor.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many of them around that know about it and are involved in it.
Right.
So go on.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So, in my opinion, the Odinism should be put to one side temporarily and reverse back towards the carrying out of it itself. And that, funnily enough, is where there's an incredible lack of information.
Mm-hmm.
We've got lots of information for the build up to it and after, but everything to do with it is so questionable. The pictures, the video, there's so much wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't happen by accident. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ted, do you have anything else that you want to throw out there before you hop off? I know you said you had about an hour.
Yeah, no, I'm flattered that you would even think to have me on here. I really appreciate it. I have a show going up. I scheduled it for later today. I don't know if there's anything else going on tonight, but I figured I'd put it up today, and I have Snay and Noe going at it, and I was the moderator, and I tried to stay out of it, but
oh my God.
It will be going up tonight at 7. So if there's not, I don't know if you're doing stuff later, but I didn't want to get creamed by the competition of the other Delphi people. And then, so I thought, oh, it looks like maybe tonight at 7, I'll put it up there. Maybe people will enjoy it. So I've gotten acquainted with some of the troublemakers and the drama here in the community. And if I can manage it and be the host, the moderator, and not get sucked into it, that works for me. So I have that going up. You know what, Amy? I still have the last episode we did, episode 4, which I broke into 3 parts. I still have, I think, 2 of them that I don't know if you ever put them up, but they're out there. And I don't know if your listeners have heard them, but they're up on my channel. So if you guys want to go there, that's fine. I can't, with my schedule, I can't do stuff every day. You know what I mean? And I'm just as much a fan of like you and Snay and people that I talk to. So I really try to just like listen and be more of like a follower of these guys. And I've already got a taste of some of the drama stuff, and then the stories changing back and forth. I'm starting to like pull my hair out with going back and forth on some of these smaller issues in the story. So I might take a little break here and there, but I do really enjoy the story. I'm probably going to have to go back through some of the information that I read and just refresh myself on it. I really hope this goes our way next month. Am I confident that it will? No, I'm not getting my hopes up. If I had to pick one where I don't think it's going to go our way, and I'm just going to take that attitude, so I'm not disappointed or anything. But I'll tell you this. I think even if nothing changes next month, if the case doesn't go the way the Allen defense team wants it to, if nothing ever changes, if Rick stays in prison, for his 130-year sentence. I don't think this story's over by any means. This is going to go down in internet infamy. And this story, if it goes the other way and Rick gets out, it'll get huge. It'll be national news. If it goes the other way and Rick stays in prison, this thing is still going to be huge on the internet, and it's only going to grow over the years. It's never going to fully go away. People are going to slowly find their way into this story, and they'll just be totally taken by researching and finding all this information. And so either way, whether it goes Rick's way or not, this story is here to stay, and it's only going to grow over the years. That I fully believe that now. So.
Okay. Well, I put your YouTube channel in the chat. Everybody, please go sub to America Betrayed. And I look forward to listening to the the verbal beatdown that I guess is going to be displayed tonight. So if you guys are interested in hearing that, you can make sure you go sub to his channel. And I'm sure this won't be the last that we hear from Ted. And Ted, I know that you broke that last part 4 into pieces. Can you email me all of the pieces so I can get them uploaded? That's one thing that I didn't do when I came back from vacation and then went right into surgery. So I do want to get those up because I do have our conversations on a playlist. So I want to get those added. And I want to say thank you very much for, putting the time in to do that voiceover for me and for coming on today. I always think it's good for the community. You're kind of a new presence in this community. And I think that you've gone about learning about this case the right way. You've not been only one-sided. You've listened to a lot of different points of views, and you've kind of made your own decision. And I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Amy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the time and effort and the friendship that you provide to me. I got so lucky stumbling into you and getting with you and hearing what you had to say before I got into some other sort of crazy stuff. So I'm very grateful for that. Quester, it was nice to meet you. I enjoy all your analysis, and I look forward to watching more of your guys' episodes. So thank you guys much. You guys have a good day.
All right, you too. Talk to you later. Okay. So if I can, really quick, I had a couple of people ask me, and I got a text too about at the very top, one of the mods, could you please, at the very top of the chat, the very beginning, I posted the link for the free Rick Allen t-shirts. If you guys could repost that for me, that would be great. And there is going to be a rally on the day of the oral arguments, and a t-shirt, if you buy one, if you can afford it, do it. Send me if you're across the pond or another state and won't be able to make it to Indiana. Send me a picture of you in your t-shirt and tell me where you're from, and I will get it. I will post it everywhere. Just kind of, showing the support. That's for me. I offered the t-shirts because a lot of people were asking me to organize a rally, and I just don't have the time. So I offered the t-shirt in lieu of, kind of like a silent support. But they're there. So if you want one, go grab one. So if one of you mods could, I'll repost it. And I'm going to, Quester, I need to let my dogs out really quick. So if you need to use the restroom or anything, we're going to take like a 2-minute break really quick because I need to let my dog, he's out there barking, and I will be right back. So Quester, do you want to stay on, or do you want to take a break really quick too? And
I can stay on for a little while. Give us a subject to keep the people amused for a couple of minutes.
Give you a subject?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see here. Let me pull up, and I'll let you. So we went over law enforcement. I will let you talk about these two freaking bleeps. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Slick in the hole.
Yep. So explain to the audience who these two characters are.
Oh, dear. Start with Slick himself, shall we? Boy, oh boy, has he got a history. Start with his university exploits, I think we could, couldn't we? Very friendly. That's so friendly, he liked to show certain parts of himself to people, allegedly, and got in trouble for that, allegedly. Of course, it has nothing at all to do with drugs, even though a couple of his close relatives are dealers in meth. And of course, he always keeps himself squeaky clean. You'd never find him representing any of the witnesses in this case during the case, because that would be quite a bit of a conflict of interest, wouldn't it? I think so far that he's represented 2 witnesses and 1 family member during this case. I don't know about you, but I don't think he should have been running the case at all, given all those circumstances. Jerry Holman, a tub of lard, allegedly. I don't think I've ever met an officer I dislike as much as this chap. I wouldn't even know where to start with that guy. I'm not even sure if he actually said anything that was truthful in this case. I'm still looking. There must be something he said that was true. But what do you guys think about these two? Come on, give us a clue. No, I've not met Jeff Holman myself. It'd be a bit awkward to do that since I'm across the pond. I'm not sure I'd want to anyway. Jerry Holman is a liar. Yeah, I think you can safely say that. Of course, everything has to have allegedly put on it. And to be honest, I'm really surprised that Nick McClelland even got the job that he got. He came out of nowhere and took the job from somebody who was far more qualified and professional.
I'm back.
You're back.
I'm back. So did you happen to touch on the fact that Nick McClelland's father was arsonist?
Oh no, I was saving that one.
Yeah.
And one of the places he burned was.
Thank you, Michelle. I forget.
I'll give you a clue. Bureau.
Was it the Farm Bureau building?
Yeah.
Or Bureau? I was an insurance company, right?
Yeah.
That's
the
what
Farm
I thought.
Bureau. Yep. That was one of them. And then Nick McClelland said he didn't know anything about a Farm Bureau building. That his dad burned it. And if I remember right, he represented his dad defending.
Yeah. Yes. That's right. He said he didn't know anything about that's right.
Never heard nothing, Gov, honest. Yeah. It was a bureau that took the case out against his dad, if I remember rightly.
And there was also there's also, from a lot of the locals that I've talked to that say that, once upon a time, Nick used to run around town he had a party bus.
I believe so, yeah.
So that's interesting as well. But
by the way, did you know his father was a volunteer fireman?
I think I did, yes. And it's, one of the themes that I've learned, and this is my experience, is that, prior to Nick McClelland being a prosecutor, which I when I came back in the room, I heard you discussing, how he fell into that role. Because Robert Ives was the original prosecutor when this case when these two girls' bodies were found. And prior to that, Nick McClelland was a defense attorney. So you're talking, he's actually getting up close and personal with a lot of the local criminals in this case, or not in this, well, names we've heard, but in the community. And one of the common themes that I've ran into is that, and I'll start with one that you guys know the best, would be Garrett Kurtz, when Garrett Kurtz, he was a suspect in this case. I do not believe that Garrett Kurtz was involved in the Delphi case. I understand the connection that law enforcement made to him. But, Garrett Kurtz he's now serving 2 life sentences for committing 2 murders by the age of 21. He's from Brookston. His father is very good friends with Ron Logan, Mark Kurtz, and Garrett Kurtz worked on Ron Logan's farm. He was very familiar with the trails. However, first and foremost, Garrett is a physical, hands-on murderer. He's not a knife-wielding murderer, but the connections in the community, Garrett Kurtz made it very clear to me that when, he was charged with strangulation of Ashley Garth and he broke into her house, hid, and when she come home, he attacked her, strangled her unconscious multiple times. Wow, you guys, thank you for all of your, wow, thank you. All that's going away for Delphi. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, I do have a goal set today. And if I reach the goal, then I'm going to host a creators night where I bring everybody in the community together as much as I can to do a creators night for you guys. So Garrett had told me that basically Nick McClelland told him, you ain't got nothing to worry about. I'll handle this, because Nick McClelland and his father were friends with Garrett's father and grandfather. And when you follow the F6 strangulation case that Garrett was charged with, you will see that case, first of all, it lacked other charges that Garrett should have been charged with. He should have been charged with kidnapping because he took Ashley from room to room. He broke in her house. There was never a breaking and entering charge. And the F6 charge, which was a lower grade felony, should have been an attempted murder charge. And maybe the F6 and attempted murder, the way that Indiana, they're charging could be a little bit different. But Garrett Kurtz, that case was strung out for over a year, and there were numerous transport requests put in, because Garrett was sitting in the Newton County Jail, an hour outside of Delphi, for him to be transported back to Delphi for hearings to face the charges of the F6. All of those transports were canceled, and before Garrett ever pled to the Nicole Bowen murder, that case in Delphi was dismissed. And because of that, Ashley was not able to use that in her trial. That's for another day. But Nick McClellan, I've heard numerous people say that, scratch my back, I scratch yours, or we have a connection. Ron Logan was one of them. Ron Logan claimed that he was promised by Nick McClellan that when he took over the prosecutor's office, he was going to get Ron Logan out of jail, because Ron Logan ultimately went to jail, not for the Delphi murders, but for violating probation by having a weapon and for driving his vehicle on a suspended license. And lo and behold, Nick McClellan took office in January, and within 2 weeks, Ron Logan's sentence was modified and Ron Logan was out. So there's that. Did you touch on Jerry Holman at all?
Not a lot. Not a lot. Worth also pointing out about McClellan, his links to dear old Brad, isn't it? Tipton
Brad
Lodge, 33.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Nick McClellan is a Mason, and so is Brad Holder, and they were associated with the same Masonic lodge. I don't know a whole lot about Masonry other than the fact that it's very complex, and it's
They're not actually the same lodge.
it wasn't the same lodge.
No, they're not members of the same lodge.
Okay. Whoops. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was thinking that they were.
Holder is a member of the Tipton Lodge 33. Nick McClellan is of the Mount Zion Lodge 211. Thinking of numbers here, aren't I?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nick McClellan received his Masonic Master's degree, and it was granted to him in Tipton Lodge number 33. And there was a certain person there at the time, dear Brad.
Mm. Brad Holder, correct?
Yeah, that's the one.
And if you're new to this case, you will learn about who Brad Holder is and how he is involved in this. So Jerry Holman works for ISP. He was an investigator. He was pretty much the lead investigator from ISP on this case. I'll say it again. I believe Jerry Holman is a compulsive liar. He's dirty. And as we go forward, some of the things that we may get into will reveal why I hold that opinion of him. I've also, I worked on another case, the David Kallenberg case. I don't say I worked it. I discussed it on my channel with David Kallenberger's sister, Kim. And David Kallenberger is somebody who went missing, and his body has never been found. Again, drug related. And he, not necessarily David, but David's wife was heavily involved in the meth. And, and it was through that case that I learned the inner workings of Tippecanoe County. Richards, which I believe it was Barry. I think it was Barry who was the sheriff in Tippecanoe County during that time, and how they were pretty much working with the meth dealers, according to those involved with the case and David's sister, Kim. Allowing the meth trafficking to come in and out, and seeing to it that everybody had a heads up as to when anything nefarious was going to happen, search warrant or an investigation was beginning. They were all well informed. But Jerry Holman was involved in that case as well, and really chose not to lift a whole lot of fingers to work that case. And there was a lot of controversy with Kim and Jerry, and that's a whole nother case. But and it's actually on my channel as well, 3 or 4 episodes. And actually, there was a location that we found that David Kallenberger could have been buried, and Jerry Holman went out there, and they dug up a garage. And I sent someone over while that was taking place to take pictures, and his body was not there. But he's never been found. And Jerry Holman was a part of that, and some of the other people that Jerry keep close to the vest. So these two guys, Nick McClelland, which we abbreviate in this case a lot, NM. Jerry Holman is he's got a lot of names, and they're not Jerry Holman. So you'll be hearing about them. So when we talk about Slick Nick or NM, we're talking about the prosecutor in this case, Nick McClelland.
Well, just for a smile, 2009 September, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
The Herald Bulletin were interviewing our dear Jerry Holman, who was at the time a detective with the ISP and the Lafayette District Meth Suppression Officer. And what he told them was, quote, "We thought that meth might go away because of the economy, but people instead began stealing to make it." Now that's pretty impressive. So he thought that because the economy was going bad, meth would go away, but he's shocked that people began stealing instead to fund it. I mean, come on, did you have to be a copper to realise that?
Right. So am I wrong in my, sorry, I'm not, street drug smart. Is meth an expensive habit? Because I feel like meth is the go-to because it's a cheap drug. I thought it was a cheap drug.
It can be expensive to manufacture, which obviously then goes on to the price of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Indiana has ranked number 2 for meth lab seizures for many years. So it's an incredibly big business in Indiana. Yeah,
it seems to be. And, and I think that we're knowledgeable of that because of this case, but I'm pretty sure that in a lot of states there's that underbelly of, meth, and it just, the sex trafficking and all of that. I feel like you can pretty much find it everywhere. So yeah, I've always been under the impression that it was a cheaper drug. That's why so many people do it, because it was easy to get and cheap to buy. But
well, the sex trafficking is so easy and much easier in places like Delphi because of the type of people that live there.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely disgusting, the attitude there towards kids. It makes it so easy, which is probably why the FBI had their big secret operation there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So on the screen is what in the community, in this case, we call the old bridge guy sketch. And I want everybody to get familiar with the sketches and how they came about. So Abby and Libby were abducted from the bridge on February 13th, on a Monday. Their bodies were found on the 14th. On the 15th was the first time the public seen the image captured within the video of the bridge guy video. That it's called the bridge guy video that Libby took on her phone. And it's a very blurry, it's conveniently blurry from the neck up. You can see the clothing, you can see the body, but you just can't make out the face. And for years, there was a lot of speculation about where this sketch came from. And, we didn't know which witness had helped participate in the making of this sketch. But ultimately, we did find out later that it was a witness by the name of Sarah Carball, the one who was told by the sketch artist that she could cheat. And so this image, it's a still shot, was released on February 15th. On February 22nd, the audio was released, and that audio was simply down the hill. So it was kind of a very short clip, and it's been kind of enhanced over the time, but that was when the audio was released. And I'm sorry. So, okay, I've got February 15th. It says I missed the word sketch. So the bridge guy photo was released February 15th, the day after the girls were found. February 22nd. Yes.
Worth pointing out about this sketch that you've got up at the moment is that it was not by Cooper Bryant, who did the young one, the YBG, but it's by another artist who invented everything below the bridge of the nose.
Right.
And admitted that he did that. So
yes,
everything below the bridge of the nose is all pure invention from a police artist's imagination, by his own admission.
So really, I'm looking for my, I thought I had it loaded in here, but I don't. I was going to play 2 clips for you guys. And one is the actual BG video, the bridge guy video. And the other is the small portion of Sarah Carball sitting down with the sketch artist to draw this sketch.
Have you seen the picture in the news? I mean, you've had to see that.
I have. I also try but I try really hard also not to look at it too much because I saw him afterwards and I just remember the mud.
Okay.
And I don't want to I'm trying to describe what I remember seeing.
Well, in previous situations I've been involved with, I'm sometimes hesitant about having the photo around because you couldn't tell that that's the actual person. Then you'd be like, oh, wait a minute, you're showing a picture of somebody, but they know that's the guy. If that picture is sitting right here with us, do you think it would help you?
It might.
Because we can cheat. I do this all the time. Like if there's surveillance photos from the bank or stuff like that, we can cheat. You want to bring that in?
Yeah, because
okay.
It might help me because
it's definitely putting it in context. So we don't have to make this hard. We can cheat.
No.
Let me go get it.
Yeah.
Amy?
Yes.
Can you stop that and go back to just before the artist was going out the door? Back a bit more. I think.
We can cheat.
When he just said we can cheat, and he's just about to go out.
You're showing a picture of somebody.
Sarah Cardboard, she said something about, yes, that will help. And then she said, Rick. I'm sure she did.
We can cheat. I do this all the time. Like if there's
listen closely to what she says.
photos of the bank or stuff like that, we can cheat. You want to bring that in?
Yeah, because it might help me because
it's definitely putting it in context.
Yeah.
So we don't have to make this hard.
Did you catch it?
No.
Let me go get it.
Yeah.
Do you guys hear that? Or are we just?
That was clearly Rick.
Guys, put a 1 in the chat if you heard that.
Can you play it again?
Yes.
If there's surveillance photos from the bank or stuff like that,
Okay.
we can cheat. You want to bring that in?
Yeah, because it might help me because
it's definitely putting it in context. So we don't have to make this hard. We can cheat.
He does say it, doesn't he? Thank you.
So that's Sarah Carball, who was a witness at trial. And a little bit of background on her. We're going to touch on her later when we get into the timeline of things. But there's a lot of controversy or, conflicting things with Sarah Carball. She was a witness who claimed she didn't come forward immediately. She came forward, I believe, about 3 weeks later, simultaneously after the reward money was put up. She claimed that she was driving down 300 North, which we'll get familiar with when I go over the trail system. You'll get familiar with that road. She had passed Mears lot where the family was gathered. And shortly beyond the Mears lot, she encounters a man on her driver's side. It's a 2-lane, 300 North is a 2-lane road. And the man was walking the opposite direction. So she was very close to him. And her first interview, she described, I believe she did 3 or 4 interviews. I have to go back and check. Quester might know off the top of his head. But she described the man that she saw as muddy. Muddy, 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 muddy. And then it was muddy and bloody. And then it was bloody, 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 bloody. So, and I guess on the stand at trial, she was very charismatic, very overdramatic, very rehearsed, as if she had been coached. And she was pretty much, I would call it embarrassed when the defense basically, when she was questioned about what her description of the individual was about muddy versus bloody. She wanted to argue that she had always said muddy and bloody. So then they pulled out the interviews, and then she had to admit that, yeah, there was muddy said so many times, and then it later turned to bloody and muddy, and then it was just bloody, bloody, bloody. There's that. And actually sitting on the stand, she stated that she learned about the girls missing because she had gotten an Amber Alert. Well, an Amber Alert had never been issued for the girls. Law enforcement felt they didn't meet the requirements because law enforcement, I think, on the evening of the 13th wasn't taking this as serious as they should have. And she never heard an Amber Alert because there wasn't one issued. So lots of controversy around her. And then after the fact, we find out, because this video wasn't released until after trial, that she was basically told, we can cheat. We're gonna base the sketch off of the bridge guy, and that's what they did. And then let me see here. I put a new battery in my mouse. That's why my camera keeps going off, because my mouse was going dead. So I put a new battery in it. So it's like really fast. So it's like I got to go slow with it, or it hits things. And down here at the bottom of my screen, when I'm trying to pop things up, I keep hitting my microphone or camera. So if you ever see my lips moving and you can't hear me, it's because I accidentally hit my microphone. Yes.
A lot of people might be getting confused over this Amber Alert stuff, because as far as I know, there was no Amber Alert. However, at 1:31 in the morning on the 14th, a BOLO was issued.
Yeah, but a BOLO
it's not an Amber Alert.
No, a BOLO only goes out to law enforcement. It doesn't go out to the public. So
if that's what she heard, she must have been listening into police messages at 1:30 in the morning. Likely? Don't think so.
I don't think so either. And gosh darn it. So, and I also think that, I know that she had claimed that her dad lived back in the area behind the trails, or over there towards 500, which we're going to get into the locations. But she claimed that she had drove past the trails that day. I think she said 4 times. Was that the number that she gave? 4 times?
4 times, she said. Yes, 4 times. And each time she said that the Mears lot was full, so she couldn't get in.
Right. And that's up until about 2:30. That's not true. That's just simply not true that the lot was full. What did I do with this here?
It's also not true that she went past 4 times, according to the Who's Your Harvest Store cam, is it?
Say that again.
It's also not true that she drove past 4 times.
Well, law enforcement didn't show us 4 times that she drove past. Law enforcement didn't show us the witnesses, the people who were out there on the trails that day. They never showed us their vehicles passing that camera to ensure that everybody had a complete knowledge of the timeline. The only people that they showed us, and remind you, there's a video at the Hoosier Harvest store that it streams all day, all night. All we got were screenshots from a computer screen. And we only seen the one time that Sarah car passed at approximately, it was like 3:58, 3:59 when she reportedly saw this individual. But everybody else.
There is one time when a car like hers went past earlier. But even then, if you said that was her, it's only twice, not 4 times.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to play the BG video for you guys. This is, I know a lot of you in chat have seen this 1,000 times. This is for the purpose of new people coming into the case who are not familiar with the case. I'm going to play this video, and then I'm going to play another video showing you the terrain once you come off the bridge, what the girls were looking at, where down the hill went. And yeah, so here we go. Now this video starts at 2:13 and some change. Do you remember the seconds, Quester, off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head.
It's 2:13 and some change, and the video is 43 seconds long. Now, we were told that this video was very scary. That's why it wasn't released. We were told for years what was said on this video. And one of the things that was said was, "That be a gun," which is not said on this video. And you guys can, if you're new to this case, you can watch it. It's available on YouTube. You can go and watch it repeatedly. I recommend putting in some headphones. And I'm going to do something that I normally never do. And I'm going to also say the prof who's on YouTube did a very, if the video is still up, he did, and prof is a musician. So he's got a lot of good equipment for enhancing audio. He did a very good audio enhancement piece by piece of this video that I would strongly encourage you guys to go watch if you want to hear what is being, what sounds are being in the background. So yeah, so here's the video. I'll play it a couple of times because it's only 43 seconds, and then we're going to watch the other video, and then we're going to move on.
See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Bye.
So a couple of things that I want to throw out there for those who are new to the case. Some of the questions that, and I'm not going to try to sway your opinion one way or the other, but some of the questions that we have are, one, do they know this individual? Were they afraid? We've always kind of kicked around where this individual came from. And where the girls are walking, that end of the bridge is considered the south end of the bridge, and the other end is considered the north. And what's being said there at the very beginning of this video, there are some sniffles, and it's, you know, some people believe that they hear another voice, another girl voice, or Libby's talking to someone. There's also what Abby is saying. I'm not going to tell you what we think. You know, as a new listener, please make your own decisions. And One of the other questions is when the man comes up behind them and he says, guys, what Libby says, is it huh or is it hi? Huh or hi? And the other thing that I want to point out is as Libby pans around and you see the hill, you will see that there is a disturbance in the dirt going down the hill that's already there. And we know that once the girls went missing, that became a contentious focus because people thought it appeared that somebody had slid down the hill. However, we can see from this video that disturbance is already there. And the other question is, was Libby videotaping this on purpose? Did she realize her camera was on? Was she taking it out of precaution because they felt uneasy, or did, because she doesn't focus on the guy at all? That's another, question that everyone's had. I'm going to play it one more time.
See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Hi.
Okay, so a little bit more background. Where the girls are, I keep hitting my camera. Where the girls are at the south end of the bridge. One thing to note is that if the hill is to the left, they go down the hill. But if they were to go straight, that path would lead them straight to Brad Weber's house. There is a path there. Libby was very familiar with the trails, and Abby lived like a half mile up the private drive. So this is not an unknown area to these girls. In my opinion, this is my opinion, in a situation where teenage girls would feel threatened or in fear, turning on a video is not going to help them. If she was able to access her phone, why not call 911 or call a family member? Number one. Number two, if they felt that they were being pursued, why stop and wait? Why not just take off running? Those are the questions that I have. You guys will, as new listeners, will make your own. And I'm sure everybody in chat has their own opinion about what they hear, see, and feel. We've been over this 1,000 times. So I'm going to show you a little bit more of the terrain because I'm a visual person, and I think the topography and the knowledge, understanding where these two little girls were, it's important to understand, especially if you're new into the case. You need to be able to visualize it. So that's why I'm going to play this. I am not sure who made this video. Credits to them, whoever they are. It's not one of mine. And I just thought I thought it was just a good video. So this is down the hill right here. There's the south end of the bridge that Abby just came off of.
Downhill, down the hill.
Now that is what is called the private drive. Once you enter that private drive, there are no houses along this private drive. This drive leads to one house further up, which is the Weber house. This hill is very steep. It doesn't look like it on camera, but it is very steep. You have to hang on to the tree branches, the trunks, and everything to get down it.
And then another down the hill.
So the state's contention is they came down the hill and they went across the private drive and they were taken down a secondary hill. Where he's standing approximately, I've stood, and you cannot go straight down. It's a complete drop off. You have to go to your left and go back towards the bridge, as you'll see here, to find a more approachable descent down.
And then another down the hill. Under the bridge. So earlier I went up this way, and up that way is somebody's home. So we're not going back that way. We're gonna leave this way. And I now have rocks in my shoes.
Now, if you follow this drive all the way out of the woods, Abby's house is, I think, like the 5th or 6th house on the right. And we're not going to watch this whole thing. I'm just going to I'm going to let it go all the way up to what's known as in the area the shoe tree. There's a deer stand up here on the left-hand side. And the shoe tree is on the right.
Shoe tree.
I'm going to stop it there. So there's a lot of rumors about what the significance of the shoe tree is. I've heard that Kay Weber started it, Brad Weber's mother. I've also heard that it's a sign of, drugs. There's a lot of different rumors about it. So you guys can make your own conclusion as to what that tree, what the symbolism of that tree is. Okay, so now let's get back to this. So there's the old bridge guy sketch. This is the young bridge guy sketch. I'm going to kind of speed up here a little bit because I feel like I'm a little bit behind. I want to make sure that throughout this marathon, we get through everything. So in 2019, there was a press conference held, a very dramatic press conference. I do have it loaded. I'm going to post it as a premiere for those of you who are new who want to watch it. But in 2019, remember the murders happened in 2017. The old bridge guy sketch was what everybody was looking for. It's the poster that was put up everywhere. It's what FBI was putting out. But in 2019, there was a press conference held, and it was basically about the case taking a new direction. And this sketch was released at that press conference. So as you can see, it is a dramatic shift in appearance and age. And the public was told that the old Bridge Guy sketch is now secondary, and that the new Bridge Guy sketch is who they believed was responsible for killing the girls. Everybody was very confused. Very confused. And we found out that this was the very first sketch drawn, not this one. The creator, or the one who sat for the sketch to be made, her name is Betsy Blair. We call her BB. She was a witness out walking on the trails that day who encountered an individual on the bridge. And this was her description. And she made this, she claimed that that when the sketch was finished, based on her memory and the way the sketch was finished, was a 10 out of 10. She described him initially as a young 20-some-year-old, very handsome man with brown poofy hair. So as you can see, why the community would be confused with these two different suspects to look for. But that's the story behind this is the young Bridge Guy sketch. This is the old Bridge Guy sketch. There are several other sketches that were created in this case, but these two are primary. These are the two that most of the public is familiar with. So Betsy Blair was the creator of this sketch. So with the photo of Bridge Guy being put out, the audio being put out, the first sketch being put out, and then the second sketch, the young Bridge Guy sketch, being put out. You're looking right now on the screen of people of interest, numerous sketches that were out there. All of this is floating around in this case for over 5 years. This right here is a group of third-party suspects, people who have very strong tentacles to this case, people who were heavily investigated as suspects in this case, that really we were never given the all clear. There was no, in any of these suspects, we have no definitive answer as to why they weren't arrested. All of the cards are still on the table. And then ultimately, we then have a very heated sheriff's election taking place in the town of Delphi. Carroll County, Indiana, a Carroll County sheriff's deputy has filed a federal rights lawsuit against Sheriff Tobias Lesenby and the sheriff's office, claiming that he was the victim of political retaliation for his unsuccessful attempt to campaign in next month's general election. Deputy Michael Thomas files a federal lawsuit as a civil rights lawsuit, claims political retaliation by Sheriff Tobe Lesenby in the Carroll County Sheriff's Office. Upon Thomas's information and belief, Lesenby and the others in the Carroll County Sheriff's Department did not approve of Thomas running for office, in part because Thomas had made suggestions and offered assistance in the investigation of a high-profile child homicide investigation, which was overruled, in which Lesenby and others in the Carroll County Sheriff's Office feared would become publicized as a result of the campaign and or Thomas's potential election. Sheriff Lesenby did not respond to a request for comment. Michael Thomas won this lawsuit and was paid a settlement, but the contents of that settlement are undisclosed. Oh, before we go there, Next comes Kathy Shank. The Delphi case collides with the sheriff's election. For more than 5 years, the murders of Abby Williams and Liberty German remained unsolved. Then, in the closing weeks of the 2022 Carroll County Sheriff's election, the case suddenly exploded back into the spotlight. A volunteer, Kathy Shank, miraculously finds a misfiled 2017 tip involving Richard Allen. So on October 13th of 2022, Allen is interrogated and his home is searched. October 26th, 2022, Allen is taken into custody. October 28th, 2022, Allen is formally charged with murders. See how quick that happened? November 8th, 2022, the Carroll County holds its general election for sheriff. Richard Allen was taken into custody just 13 days before Election Day and formally charged only 11 days before voters went to the polls. Meet Dan Doolin. Dan Doolin is the conservation officer. Rick Allen had gone out to the trails on the 13th, walked briefly, and then returned home. When the girls' bodies were found, Rick Allen's wife, Kathy, said, "Hey, law enforcement wants anyone with information who was out on the trails that day to come forward and, give them a statement." So Rick Allen did just that. Rick Allen went into the sheriff's department. They were unable to see him at that time, left his name and number. And I believe it was the next day, Dan Doolin, he's a conservation officer, not an investigator, not a patrol officer, but he was assisting with, interviewing people. He contacted Rick Allen. Rick Allen was currently driving and was on his way to Save-A-Lot there in Delphi. Dan Doolin agreed to meet Rick Allen at the Save-A-Lot, which they did. Doolin took handwritten notes during his 2017 interview with Richard Allen, but there was no recording. He then typed those notes into a Word document and testified that he probably threw the original handwritten notes away. It's also notable to mention that Rick Allen handed over his phone, allowed Doolin to go through it, remove the battery, and jot down all of the cell phone's information, the EMI number, etc. By 2022, Doolin initially didn't even remember his interaction with Allen until he found that Word document. So today, we cannot compare Doolin's typed summary against his original contemporaneous notes because his handwritten notes no longer exist. And his response to that was, "I would say I probably threw them away when I was done with them." And the state wanted us to believe that his memory was more accurate than his handwritten notes. And his handwritten notes that were then converted into a Word document did not have Rick Allen as Rick Allen's name. It had Richard Whiteman. Well, Rick Allen is Rick Allen. He's not Rick Whiteman. In fact, Whiteman was the name of the street that Allen lived on. They called it a lost tip when they made the arrest of Rick, that it had been put in a drawer. Kathy Shank was a volunteer, and she's the one who began converting all of the tips into the Orion file. And apparently, she's very protective of her filing cabinets, very thorough woman. The office that she worked out of moved 3 times during the course of this investigation. And lo and behold, in the course of moving her office and being such an organized person, she apparently never checked this box that was in her desk drawer. So we are to believe. And this tip had been lost and forgotten for forever. And then all of a sudden, miraculously, during the heated sheriff's election, when Liggett was in fear of losing the election and Michael Thomas toting the fact that you have fucked up this Delphi investigation. And if I'm elected sheriff, I'm going to bring in real investigators. I'm going to bring the FBI back in, which in the early onset of this investigation, they had kicked the FBI off the case. This tip, 13 days before the election, is miraculously found and arrest was made. However, when you take a closer look at this tip, you can see that this tip was, first of all, on the left-hand side, in the bigger or the smaller version of it, at the very bottom, it says lead cleared. Rick Allen did not fit the description of the bridge guy. Quester, how tall is Rick Allen?
I think 5'4".
Yep. This lead was cleared. And this lead was also emailed to Alexis Lucas and yours truly, Jerry Holman. So not only did Dan Doolin have knowledge, or should have had knowledge, of this tip, this interview that he conducted, that he typed up, threw away his notes, but so did Alexis Lucas, and so did Jerry Holman. And we are to believe this was a lost tip. And at the very bottom here, there's a notation in handwriting that says, nothing new, phone information provided to ISP. So Rick Allen's phone information was provided to ISP, and that could be one person or 10. We don't know. It doesn't specify. So we now have Dan Doolin, Alexis Lucas, Jerry Holman, and anybody else in ISP who would have received Rick Allen's phone information. And we're to believe this is a lost tip.
There's something else about Doolin. Yeah? Amy?
What's that?
7 days after Doolin interviewed Richard Allen, there was a presser. And in that presser, I can't remember who it was who said it, as one of the officers said, will you all please think back to anyone you know or spoke to that was out on those trails? Guess who was standing just a few people away from that man and said nothing?
Dan Doolin.
Yeah.
Dan
so within 7 days, we've forgotten about it, apparently.
Mm-hmm. And you know, Dan Doolin went on to wear many, many hats. Dan Doolin is the one, after the crime scene had been released, and I think it was 3-4 days later, Dan Doolin is the one who went out and discovered that the sticks that were laid upon the girls had been left. They had not been collected, and some of these sticks had blood on them. Dan Doolin then, so Dan Doolin called and had them come retrieve the sticks. Dan Doolin also goes on to assist and be a part of a lot of other investigations and a lot of meth busts. We may talk about one a little later that is connected to this case. So that leads us to a suspect being arrested. Now, we're going to meet Rick and Kathy Allen. Rick was known in the community and by his family as a normal, everyday family man. Husband, father, friend, pharmacy tech, neighbor, a life quietly woven into the Delphi for over 16 years. Rick Allen was never tipped in as a suspect. No one ever thought that Rick Allen resembled the bridge guy. Rick Allen, it's Richard. He goes by Rick or Ricky. Matthew Allen, also known to friends and family as Ricky, spent over 16 years quietly woven into the life of Delphi, Indiana. Before his 2022 arrest and 2024 conviction in the widely publicized Delphi case, Rick was known as a friendly face behind the CVS pharmacy counter, a devoted husband and a father, and a regular at the local pub. To neighbors and acquaintances, he was a heck of a nice guy, someone who blended in completely, living a life that, by all outward appearances, was stable, familiar, and unremarkable. Not only was Rick arrested, but immediately preceding his arrest, well, first of all, upon his arrest, he was booked into a local jail under a fake name. Not his wife could find him. His wife hired an attorney, and not even his attorney could find him. His attorney had to contact Nick McClelland personally to find out where Rick was being held. Number one. Number two, a very rushed safekeeping hearing was scheduled, and Rick was immediately whisked away to Westville Prison. Prison, not the local county jail or a county jail on the outskirts, a prison where he spent 13 months in solitary confinement, heckled, harassed, lights kept on. What was done to him is unbelievable. All under the judge's nose. The defense attorneys continue to fight to get Rick out of there. Judge Diener is the one who signed the search warrant for the search of Rick's property. Immediately after Rick's arrest, Judge Diener recused himself from the case. Rick was injected with Halidol because he was having a mental decline, a mental breakdown. So they began to inject him with Halidol. They were in real time, monitoring his tablet and his phone calls. They were not allowing visitors. They were recording him 24 hours a day. If they took him out of his cell to go to the shower or the bathroom or anywhere to see Dr. Walla, his therapist, they used a handheld recorder. When his attorneys were allowed to visit with him, he was put in a room where his chair faced a window where the guards could see his face, and they were video recording him with a handheld camera during his what is supposed to be a privileged meeting that is not supposed to be interfered with by the prison. I believe the first time that Andrew Baldwin and Brad Rosie went to visit him, they had literally put him in a metal locker-style cage with his hands out in cuffs, and they had to speak to him that way. And the main two prison guards who accompanied Rick throughout the prison and to his attorney visitations were wearing Odin patches on their prison guard uniforms. So take a good look at Rick's face. This was Rick in 2022. Rick in 2022. Rick and Kathy prior to 2022. This is Rick, far left, his first mugshot after his arrest. This is Rick not long after his arrest. Then what he looked like during his 13-month confinement, and then the complete mental break, where he banged his face against the wall repeatedly until he was bleeding and his eyes were black and blue. And people want to say, well, he confessed. Well, watch Rick's interrogation videos. He's not confessing there. In fact, he's quite angry, but it took him a while to get angry. But this is more of a man who's saying, make it stop. And one last thing about his confinement, which there's so much there. 24-hour a day cameras, 24 hours a day being followed whenever he was removed from his cell, being recorded. The confession that he made to Dr. Walla was the one time that he wasn't on camera. Dr. Walla was a true crime junkie. Dr. Walla surfed all of the true crime YouTube creators who followed this case. She had made a trip out to the trails to see for herself the area. She had also pulled some information out of the prison system to look up information about inmates. She was a frequent chatter in Gray Hughes's chat, and prior to Rick's arrest, had discussed the white van theory with with Gray Hughes live on a channel. She wasn't in his chat as Dr. Walla, but it was proven later that it was Dr. Walla. Dr. Walla lost her job with Westville, and to me, she has no credibility. Quester?
Yeah, there's also the fact that they said he was confessing before he became mentally ill. And to support that, they provided a document dated. The only problem with that is that document had a forged date on it, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah. The date was actually after they were treating him, and they backdated it. Now, why would they have to do that?
Mm-hmm. There's so much shady shit in this case.
I hope you've got enough ice cream for all of us here. I hope you've got enough ice cream for everybody here.
Ice cream?
Isn't it?
No, me?
You?
Yeah, no, not ice cream. I just have a little snack over here.
Oh, I say if that's ice cream, you better start dishing out to everybody in the live as well.
No, I didn't eat this morning. I had a lot to get done before I came on here, so I had a little snack right there. Okay, we're going to move on. Now let's go back to February 12th, the day before the girls were abducted. This is where the story really starts. Actually, let me check chat really quick. Make sure we don't have any questions. Yeah, the whole they wanted to keep him safe was bullshit. They knew the probable cause affidavit was weak. They knew they didn't have any real evidence on him. They claimed that an unspent round found within the crime scene matched his gun. Number one, the girls weren't shot. Number two, they claimed that that unspent round was racked and ejected across the creek, up the hill, over the private drive, up the other hill, at the south end of the bridge. During the video that Libby was taken, we're supposed to hear a gun racking and that unspent round ejecting, and somehow it made its way all the way over to the crime scene, which is why the defense team dubbed it the magic bullet. There were an enormous amount of electronics seized at Rick Allen's house during the search warrant. Nothing tying him to the girls, nothing tying him to social media, nothing tying him to CSAM, nothing. They knew the probable cause affidavit was a joke. They needed to mentally torment this man and squeeze these confessions out of him, including one that he shot the girls in the back and buried him in a shallow grave. He claimed he killed his whole family. He claimed ridiculous confessions, and they want you to believe that the ones where he said, yeah, I did it. I must have done it. I killed Abby and Libby. No details, ever no details. I killed Abby and Libby is what they relied upon as confessions.
And of course, they broke the law getting him into the prison in the first place, didn't they?
They did. They broke their own. They broke their own standards of how long someone can be in solitary confinement, and they tried to skirt around that by saying, "Well, he's not an inmate, so those rules don't apply. We're going to keep him in there for his protection."
No, I meant the actual hearing to put him in prison.
Oh yeah, he didn't have an attorney present.
No, he had an attorney because Kathy Allen had hired one and notified Nick McLean.
Yeah, but his attorney wasn't there for the safekeeping hearing.
No, because he wasn't notified. And there's a little rule that you're not allowed to hold an adversarial hearing without the solicitor present. So what they did is they held a non-adversarial procedural hearing, then jumped straight into deciding whether he should go to the jail. And deciding whether he's going to jail is adversarial. But they didn't wait for the solicitor or even tell the solicitor. So they broke the law themselves just to get him into the jail.
Yeah, they did.
But of course, it's now, well, that was a long time ago, so that doesn't count.
Right. So the night of the 12th, there's nothing spectacular that does or don't happen on the 12th. One of the things that stands out for one to us after going over with you guys numerous vault lives, the phone data, is how accurate the phone, Libby's phone, was working on the 12th, when they were at the park, etc. But also how even on the 12th, people cannot get their story straight in this case. Abby spent the night over at the Patties on Sunday, February 12th. She had spent the weekend with her grandfather in Monticello. Abby and her grandfather stayed at the Brandywine Hotel, and Abby spent Saturday night with her grandfather, who came down from Michigan. Anna picks up Abby in Monticello, and Anna said that she had went by the local Walmart to have a tire fixed after picking Abby up. Anna and Abby return to Delphi, and they meet Libby at Riley Park. Anna takes both girls from Riley Park back to Anna's house, and along the way, the girls ask, can they have a sleepover? The sleepover was arranged to be at Libby's house, so they went to Abby's house so Abby could get an overnight bag, paint, and do crafts. Anna drives both girls to Mike and Becky's Patty's house and drop them off. Libby, on the 12th, had spent the night at another friend's house on Saturday night, and Derek stated that he went and picked up Libby from that overnight sleepover. And then Derek says he went to Abby's house and picked up Abby and took them. He doesn't really say where he took them. If he took them to Riley Park or he brought them back to the Patties. Derek picks up Abby. He says, yeah, I picked her up. The girls go back to the Patties, and then they were there at the house for the evening, and Abby spends the night. So there's this whole, and the crazy thing is that Kelsey also claimed that she picked Libby up from that sleepover and took her to Riley Park. In this scenario here, I'm going to go with Anna story, because there's text messages on Libby's phone with Anna about coming to pick them up. But why all of this, Derek saying that he picked Abby up and he picked Libby up from the sleepover. Go ahead, Quester.
Yeah, in fact, Kelsey said that when she picked up Libby, they went to the trails first before they went to Riley Park, didn't she?
Yes, to geocache.
Yeah.
And I know it's not that major of a deal, but it just aligns with how this case has gone. Anything that to do with the Patties is never accurate.
Well, the geolocations more favour Anna Williams, which I'm not surprised at.
So on February 12th, Abby and Libby spend the night at the Patties. Earlier in the evening, they hung out with Kelsey and Kelsey's friends. That would be Kelsey and Bree. And I believe that Kelsey and Bree's boyfriends were there. In fact, I know that Bree's boyfriend was there. They ate pizza. They watched movies together. They then hung out in Libby's room. At around 11 o'clock that night, Kelsey left the house to drive Bree's boyfriend home. And then Kelsey took Bree home. Bree did not spend the night at the Patties. After Kelsey and Bree left, Abby and Libby continued hanging out together in Libby's room. They painted, they made videos on the Musical.ly app, and they texted and chatted with friends throughout the night. Abby and Libby remained together overnight and woke up the next morning at approximately 10 a.m. I need to pull in my other slide here. Where'd it go? Let me remove. Hold on, I gotta remove a couple of these from the studio. Any questions in chat? Hold on. Okay. I'm gonna have to bounce around here for just a minute. So what we're gonna start to do right now is we're gonna start discussing timelines. And I just poked myself in the eye. We're gonna start discussing timelines, and I tried to weave them together so we can discuss simultaneously the movements of different people. If I lose you guys, let me know. So the morning of February 13th, the girls woke up around 10 a.m. Prior to them waking up, this happens. At the very last house, remember, we went back to the guy showing you down the hill and that private drive he was walking. And I said, Abby lives down about the fifth or sixth house on the right. The first house that you come to is owned by Dave and Teresa Liebert. It's the last house that you pass entering that private drive that takes you around to Brad Weber's house. David Liebert, and Teresa. I only put Dave's in here because they both pretty much say the same thing. David Liebert was interviewed. This is on the morning of the 14th. David Liebert stated that on the morning of the 13th, at one point in the morning, while gaining permission for property around the area, I spoke with David Liebert, who lives at 2482 North 625. David lives at the start of a private drive that takes you back to the High Bridge. So remember, you follow that private drive, you drive under the bridge, turn to the right, follow it all the way up to the Weber property. I asked David if he had seen anything suspicious in the area within the past day. David stated that he had seen a male walking north on 625, approaching the private lane. That leads back to the High Bridge yesterday around 9 and 10 a.m. He stated the guy was a white male and he had a scarf or something covering his face. Remember that. David said that when he saw the man, that the man turned around and started walking back south. David said it wasn't out of the ordinary because several local people know that the private drive accesses the High Bridge Trail. David was unable to provide a clothing description, but stated the man didn't look like the athletic type. I believe this is a sketch that was made. Am I right, Quester, about this sketch?
That's correct. That was from Teresa Liebert,
who also stated the man was wearing a face covering. And again, like the Old Bridge Guy sketch, well, I don't think that Sarah Carball said that when she's seen Old Bridge Guy walking, that he had his face covering on. But how they came up with a complete facial composite when his face was covered is interesting to me. Dave Liebert passed away before trial. So Teresa was the only one who testified at the trial. And when she testified, she never stated the man had a face covering. Information the jury didn't hear again.
The odd thing was that Teresa said that she was sitting in the passenger side of the truck and the man was very close to her as they passed, so she had a good view of his face.
Mm-hmm.
And she can't remember whether he was wearing a hat.
And she said that he was a little bit darker skinned, like maybe an olive colored skin.
Yeah, and looked startled and concerned at being seen. Right.
Kelsey's version on February 13th is that the girls wanted to go to High Bridge. Kelsey testified that Abby and Libby wanted to go to the Monon High Bridge trails that afternoon. The girls also asked Kelsey to go with them, but she had other plans. Kelsey agreed to drive them. Kelsey agreed to take Abby and Libby to the trails, but testified that the girls needed to arrange a ride home. Derek ultimately agreed to pick them up. That's another story of contention because Derek was at the house. Derek had made banana pancakes for the girls, and he was getting ready to leave. Becky Patty owns a appraisal company, and she works on her office is on their property. She was sending Derek out to Frankfurt to take some photographs of a property. So Derek was getting ready to leave to go do that. Why Derek didn't take the girls to drop them off, I don't know if it was out of his way or what, but Derek notably left without taking the girls to the bridge and without being asked to pick up the girls. Libby didn't contact her dad until she was already in the car on her way to the trails to ask him for a ride. The drive to the trails, Kelsey drove Abby and Libby to the Mears entrance drop-off area. During the drive, she claimed the girls were taking pictures and posting to Snapchat. The jury was shown one of the selfies that were taken from inside Kelsey's car. At 1:49, the camera at the Hoosier Harvest Store, which is about 30 seconds west of the Mears drop-off point, captured Kelsey traveling westbound on the Hoosier Harvest camera after the drop-off. Kelsey has given numerous conflicting stories. Did the girls ask Kelsey to go with them or just ask Kelsey for a ride? At trial reporting, Kelsey's account was that Abby and Libby wanted to go to Highbridge and asked Kelsey to go with them, but she had other plans. Earlier, public retellings have been described as Libby asking Kelsey simply to take and drop them off at the trails. Becky's trial testimony is specific. Libby asked, "If you're going to go into town, would you take us to the trails?" The drop-off time changed significantly in the public accounts by Kelsey. Older family public timelines commonly place Kelsey dropping the girls off around 1:30, 1:38. The later case timeline in the probable cause affidavit places the drop-off at approximately 1:48 p.m., followed by Kelsey's white vehicle appearing on the Hoosier Harvest Store camera at 1:49. That is roughly a 10 to 18-minute discrepancy, which matters in such a compressed timeline. Kelsey said that there was about 50 kids out on the trails at that time. She claimed she made the girls put on sweatshirts as she was dropping them off. However, we already see in the selfie taken in the vehicle, Abby already had a jacket on in the car. Kelsey stated that she went home and got Libby's tablet after the girls went missing and took it to the fire station to give them access to the tablet. However, Mike, in an interview on Scene of the Crime, Mike Patty claims he went home and got the electronics. He said he got multiple devices to take to the fire station. Becky has changed stories about Libby's phone, what phone she had and what model. So Libby was having problems with her phone, glitching, whatever that means, whether that, the phone had too much stuff on it, didn't have enough storage. The phone was factory reset on February 4th. The girls went missing on the 13th. For years, in conversations with Becky Patty in interviews, she repeatedly says to Kelsey, well, she wasn't answering your phone. Then repeatedly in interviews with Mike Patty present, it was, she wasn't answering your phone. For years, we were told that Libby was carrying a rose gold cell phone, but that's not what was found at the crime scene. And there's also been statements made that Abby wasn't allowed to have a phone and that the Pattys had provided her a phone for her to utilize when she was over there. Whether that meant she could make phone calls on it or not is not clear, but she could access the internet and apps. Anna is emphatic that Abby didn't have a phone, but Anna also didn't know that Abby had social media accounts, including Facebook social media, where Abby had an account where she had blocked her mother. Anna didn't find any of that out until after the girls were found. So that's going to be, that's an issue throughout this case. Did Abby have a phone? And if she did, where is that phone? Derek German. What Derek German testified to? Derek German on February 13th, before Abby and Libby went to the trails, he fixed breakfast. Derek testified that he got up and made Abby and Libby banana pancakes. He joked that they left him with a mess to clean up. He talked about the girls painting a desk that morning. He also remembered the girls talking about painting a desk, which he said was in the garage, the same garage that contains Becky's office. Normal morning at home. Derek testified that this was a normal morning at home, breakfast plans, helping out, and just being kids before their day took a tragic turn. Well, a normal day at home is very interesting because Derek didn't live there, which Becky Patty pushed that narrative that Derek lived there. He did not live there. He had a home that was literally right next to where Bree Wilbur lived. A 5-10 minute walk to the trails. And Derek specifically testified that when he left the house, he had no obligation to pick Abby and Libby up anywhere. That's because he wasn't asked. He was called after the girls were already on their way to the trails. Becky Patty. Becky testified that Derek got up and made Abby and Libby breakfast. After breakfast, Libby came out and asked Becky if they could go do something. Becky told her that she had to work. Instead, she offered the girls a deal. If they would help her file paperwork for her business, she would pay them. And then they could go shopping or do something after Becky finished working. Abby and Libby agreed and began doing filing for her. Later, Libby was sitting on the floor in Becky's office when Kelsey came out and said she had to work, but she was going to her boyfriend's house first. Now remember, Kelsey's boyfriend is Bree Wilbur's brother. That's when, according to Becky, Libby jumped up and asked Kelsey, hey, if you're going to go into town, would you take us to the trails? Kelsey said yes. Libby then asked Becky for permission to go. Becky told her essentially, Kelsey can take you, but you know you have to find your own ride home, because Becky needed to finish working and didn't have time to come get them. Libby went inside and then returned and told Becky her dad, Derek, was going to pick them up. Libby lied, like most teenage girls do, because we have the phone call. What do you remember off the top of your head what time Libby made that phone call? Quester?
Sorry, which phone call?
To Derek to ask them to pick them up. When they're on their way to the trails. It's not, I mean, it's not major important,
yeah,
but
according to the phone data, she made it as they were getting in the car. Which would have been what, 1:38?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, roughly. So
Definitely, it's definitely after Becky Patty was supposed to have been told that he'd said yes, he would.
let me see here really quick. What do I have left up here? Lemon. Okay. I think we're going to stop here for today, because everything that comes next in the marathon has to be discussed together, and it's probably going to take about 2.5, 3 hours to get through it. So, and we've been on here for almost 4 hours. Is that okay with you, Quester?
Fine by me.
Okay. So we're gonna end it right here with, I know I said we were going to discuss the timelines, but the timelines are confusing and there's a lot of them and they're going to take a while to get through. So we will pick this up right here tomorrow. Let me check the chat for any questions. Let me see. I'm seeing some interesting conversations, and I'm glad that you guys are keeping it civil. Good job, guys. Thank you, mods, everybody in here. I will make sure tomorrow morning before we get started that I have all the links that you guys need, the t-shirts. Make sure that you go and subscribe to American Betrayed. Make sure that you please like and subscribe and share the video. And after we're off, hype the video. It just helps. We need to the purpose of all of this is to get more eyes on the case. So that's why you guys play a role in that. Like, share, and hype the video. What else? T-shirts. I'll make sure I'll have those posted. Case by case Facebook group discussion. There's good commentary in there. I posted the link earlier. I think that's it. Quester, do you have anything?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. And then tomorrow, Chris Todd will be coming on approximately around 4:00. So we're going to go a little bit longer tomorrow. But that will give me time to get through the timelines and kind of launch into the suspects. So, Peter, I would love for you to see the start. The Vault series is absolutely extensive and a lot of detail. You're welcome, guys, and thank you for all the super chats and everybody who's sent money over here to that Cash App. That everything will just sit there. The Delphi research trip is next month, and as you guys know, I just had surgery. I've paid up all my bills until I go back to work. So every little bit helps. And, while we're there, we're going to be basically shooting boots on the ground and attending the oral argument. So I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much. And we will see you tomorrow morning at 11 sharp. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Quester.
Bye.